Okay, we're live. Hello, welcome to Cinema Savvy, and we have officially hit our 2-year anniversary. Huge milestone, can't believe it. We did an update video yesterday, but we wanted to celebrate in style with this one, so we thought the best way to do it was to throw out another Battle of the Brackets episode, and this is going to be a very interesting one. It's a really clever, unique idea from what we usually do on this. And we were just saying this before we started. Most of us are kind of nervous for this one. There's a lot riding on this one. The trophy of winning the 2-year anniversary special Battle of the Brackets, I guess, is a prestigious award to win. So before I pass over to George to explain what we've got for the bracket today, I'm just going to introduce everyone. So pretty much everyone on the panel today has been affiliated with Cinema Savvy. So we've got George Aldridge, Tate Niawa, Naomi, and Tom. So we've got the full crowd for this one. And yeah, I think I've pretty much said everything for the intro, so passing over to George to explain the bracket.
What I will say before we do start the bracket, as it's our 2-year anniversary, I'm not going to go into a detailed speech. I know you will want me to. However, I will say that yesterday we did announce some new shows. I'm not going to go into major detail on them, but I'm just going to highlight them. Film Club is back. We have Tom's Best Picture show. We have a Cinema Savvy news show coming out soon. Tate's show that I've forgotten the name of again.
Thoughts on film.
Thoughts on film. And we have the greatest news show ever invented, where I will review every single film The Rock has ever done, called The Rockathon. So let's go into tonight's battle, but I just wanted to give you all an update there because we kind of have to talk about what we've got planned. And if you look at the screen now, I would distract my pretty face with my beautiful voice. And we have our greatest film reviewed by Cinema Savvy. For those that don't know, the only rules for today was that it was a film Cinema Savvy had reviewed, and you could only choose a film that you yourself contributed to the review to. So, for example, Tate bottled picking La La Land, but I wouldn't have been allowed to pick that because I didn't review it. Whereas Tate wouldn't have been able to do a Rogue One had I have picked it. Chris has free reign over everything, essentially, and Tom has a few choices.
Except for Finding Nemo, which he did not review.
Except for Finding Nemo,
Jason Bourne
and Grimsby. I believe there's the three.
And I basically can't do Oscar films, but I did something better than Oscar films. But let's go to it. Right, for round one, we have Tom and Hell or High Water versus Chris and his Toy Story. We have Tate's The Thing versus, obviously, Star Wars. Specifically, I picked A New Hope. We have, again, me with Mad Max Fury Road versus that other film from the other sci-fi film from 2015, Ex Machina. Tom and Trainspotting 2, spoiler alert. And we have The Shining, which is Tate's. We have, is it a Tate v Tom rematch? Oh, no, Chris is sorry.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. Chris
sorry.
is The Shining.
Tate said he picked the greatest horror film of all time. I did think he was referring to The Shining. We then have Tate and Kubo and the Two Strings versus Tom and The Conjuring 2. We have Chris and the other T2 versus me himself in Jurassic Park. We have Chris stolen my choice of The Empire Strikes Back versus Tate's beloved Brooklyn. And we have Tom and the Double VH versus me in The Dark Knight. So, yeah, that's our Battle of the Brackets for the 2-year anniversary special. As usual, I will be updating this as the night goes on. But yeah, there we go, people.
That is
awesome.
A cough of courage.
I will say to everyone watching at home as well, get comments in throughout the bracket, let us know what you think and which ones you want to see go through and just anything in general during the night. So with all that said, do you want me to man the timer for tonight?
I've actually got a timer ready to go.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm fighting first, aren't I? So I guess that's probably not the best thing.
Yeah. So,
okay, Tom, I believe you're kicking us off with Hell or High Water versus me with Toy Story. Now, I have to ask this
Tom,
every time.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm woefully underprepared. Woefully.
Good, because that's enough. Okay, Tom, you may argue for Hell or High Water in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, Hell or High Water is an outstanding piece of cinema. It came out at the time when the sort of resurgence of modern day westerns, and it really puts its themes above its plot, and it kind of like other films on my list today as well. It has characters that that remember the past and sort of try and live up to what they were in their glory days. And you have the two central leads, Chris Pine, and it is unbelievable in the film. It's all round fantastic fantastic film, and it's just the cinematography. It really makes you feel the heat of, you know, the deserts of wherever the fuck it was filmed.
And stop. Okay, Chris,
that was
you ready?
fucking dreadful.
Go.
Am I
Chris,
starting?
Go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go.
There is really no comparison with this. I mean, as you just said, Hell or High Water was a film. I mean, I love that film. It's a fantastic film, one of my favorite ones from that Oscar year. But it was a throwback movie to films we'd seen before. Toy Story was a completely different concept. This was the first CGI animated film ever made, totally ambitious, and it was praised, complete worldwide acclaim for the innovation in the technology, the sophistication of the script, and the voice talents from the likes of Tom Hanks and, oh God, what's his name? Tim Allen. It's just a fantastic film. It's one of Disney's best. It was Pixar's first ever feature film, which was completely ambitious. The first few ideas for the film that they threw out there were for a much more mature audience and a lot edgier. They realized that wasn't the way to go, and look at it now. Look at the legacy that this one movie has created. We've had 2 sequels already, with a 3rd on the way. It's completely beloved. It's just swept the heart of like every child's heart in the 90s.
And go, Tom. Rebuttal.
Right. So, Toy Story, you know, its characters aren't particularly that likable. You think back to the first instance of Woody, and you go to Toy Story 2, compare him. Toy Story 2 to Toy Story 1, the completely different character. He is an arsehole, a complete buffoon that just sort of bumbles around and doesn't really know what on earth is going on. It is extremely fucking wooden shit.
That's the point of his character arc. He starts off like that, but by the course of the first movie, I'm not arguing 2 or 3, he has that character arc and he becomes a much likable person, and he builds that friendship with Buzz, which is the foundation of this first movie. Hell or High Water, very good film, but it's not particularly inspiring in any way. It's a story we've seen a million times: bank robbers, heist movies, cop 3 days from retirement. It's all tropes we've seen before, done very well, but Toy Story was completely innovative, completely original, and that's why it's one of the greatest animated films of all time, precisely because it was the first CG one. I don't know.
Okay, so after the first
I'll go
battle,
first.
you can go first.
George, straight in there.
Toy Story. Why? Because Chris could actually argue it. Sorry, Tom. Tom gave up. Tom gave up. He knows it though.
It's hard to open the bracket.
It is. It is tough going first.
His rebuttal was stronger than his opening, but Chris had it in the first like 20 seconds of his opening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to put a counter on Chris's column there. His arguments were a lot clearer. Tom started to make some good points, but I feel like he ran immediately out of time.
Yeah.
With that rebuttal, maybe an extra 5 minutes, and that rebuttal would have been good. But it's 30 seconds. So
Take it 5 minutes to get a word out.
Near me.
Oh well.
Yeah, go on.
Well, not much I can say, but I can tell that Tom did try with it, and I know how much people kind of did like how it was placed in somewhere America, I guess, in deserts in somewhere America. But Tom didn't really defend your movie after Chris's statement. You didn't really defend it and give it more of what you could say about it, whilst Chris is just in there immediately with nostalgia, affecting my nostalgia. This is one of the first films I ever saw as a kid. Also, saying that Woody is a dick is just not right at all.
Why? He is.
No, he is a bit of a dick. Not lie. In the first film, he was a bit of an asshole.
But he's played by
I've
Tom
actually got a
Hanks,
VHS somewhere.
I care more about the other toys, and I think Chris really defended that very well. So obviously, it goes to Toy Story.
I mean, he didn't need to really do any defending, did he? Really didn't put up a fight.
Tom, you're thinking negatively here. It's still all to play for, Tom. You've got another 3 movies in there, so don't give up hope just yet.
We'll see.
Okay, so in the first battle, Toy Story goes through, and in the next round, we've got my pick of John Carpenter's The Thing versus Star Wars: A New Hope, George's pick. Chris, are you on the timer for this one?
I will be on the timer. I may have to run and get my charger momentarily, but I'm on 12%, so we're going to be fine for the foreseeable future. So, stopwatch. Okay, John Carpenter's The Thing's going first, right?
Yeah.
Okay, a minute on the clock. Your time starts now.
I remember seeing the first time I saw John Carpenter's The Thing. It frightened me. And really, that's what you want from a horror film. And it wasn't just because of the practical effects, which are phenomenal. I have to say, some of the best practical effects seen of all time. But it was the psychological ending of leaving you on a cliffhanger. Is the alien one of them? Did either of them escape? We obviously think, okay, they're probably going to have to die alone in the ice, and it's perfectly ending on a brilliant film, a thriller to melt down the ages. I have to say, even from the opening chase with the dog, you get drawn in immediately. It asks questions, and I love horror films that make you ask questions. With Star Wars, it's a beloved film. It's got a huge fan base. But the first film has so many flaws to the point where they had to create an entire film to seal up those flaws. Not only that, but the effects from the film haven't aged well. The choreography has not aged well. Compare that to The Thing.
Time. Okay, a minute for Star Wars: A New Hope. Go.
The only thing Rogue One actually corrected was one plot hole in A New Hope, so it's been that. You want to talk about iconic sort of shot, iconic whatever. The opening scene of Star Wars, Tantive IV being followed by the Star Destroyer, that shot, the John Williams soundtrack booming in its best with The Crawl as well. Star Wars is one of the most... There's a reason 40 years later it's still being celebrated today. I can't remember The Thing ever being mentioned on any of its anniversary days, let alone having a day of the year named after it. And you're right, the choreography is different because it's outdated. It was 40 years ago. It's in a phenomenal scene. And it's about the ending of the scene of Obi-Wan getting slashed in half by the lightsaber to the sacrifice. It's not about the choreography of that fight. It's about the story and what happens with it. And yes, there could be flaws. It's outdated, but it's one of the most classic films of all time. People keep talking about it today. The effects, yes, they are outdated because it was 40 years ago. It was the creation of Industrial Light and Magic, which was the very first project this company did. And it destroyed the Oscars. It created the special effect award. It was given to them as a sort of rarity back then because it wasn't an annual award. Star Wars is a very traditional formulaic film, but there's nothing wrong with that.
30-second rebuttal. Tate, go.
Nothing wrong with formulaic. I think there's almost everything wrong with formulaic when you're saying it is the ground film. It is quite generic to modern day standards. Yes, sure, it did a lot of innovative things, but The Thing was just on another level. I personally prefer it. And yeah, sure, you have a massive fan base and you'll have loads of people arguing for that side. But when you look at The Thing, it's a cult film. It doesn't have a big fan base. It doesn't have a booming score. It has a nice, quiet score. And that works for the film because it keeps you on edge. Everything about The Thing works for The Thing.
George, go.
There's nothing wrong with the soundtrack being loud. It suits what you're seeing on screen. And you want to talk about stupid things. How about The Thing? It's ending. A man creates a UFO out of helicopter parts. What on earth is that about? That's just bizarre. And it's just one of those films where, you know, you keep talking about the Star Wars fan base. It's got a big fan base. That's nothing to do with the film. It's got a fan base because the film was absolutely incredible and it changed cinema for the good. You look at a lot of things that came from this. It's all down to Star Wars. It's one of the most important films ever made to cinema. And that's why it resonates today as a classic. And yeah, The Thing's...
God, this is a tough one. This was a great fight.
Oh, gosh.
Does anyone want to go first, or...
Yes.
Go fight, George.
Or shall I? Do you want me to go first, or?
I've got something to say.
Okay.
For this, so it's I think Tate, your points kind of meandered a lot, and it didn't really go anywhere particularly interesting with your arguments. There wasn't that hook that really got me thinking that The Thing was better than Star Wars, because you know, I didn't think the arguments were quite as sound as George's. And although the rebuttal was good, I still have to give this one to Star Wars.
Naomi?
Oh, gosh. I'm not exact. I'm going to be biased because...
No bias.
Thing, and I've only seen out of the battle at this moment. I know. I want to see The Thing. I desperately do.
Based on the arguments.
I was hooked into your argument, Tate. I really was, until George said about UFO made out of helicopter parts or something like that. And it just made me think, wait, that's a little bit weird.
I'm trying to remember that part of the film. I really am.
Yeah, it's Wilford Brimley, remember? Because he gets put in isolation and then he makes a UFO out of the used helicopter parts.
Yeah, but he has gone insane.
Yeah, but the point is, he still makes a UFO out of helicopter parts. That's, you know.
Yeah. So it did make me think it's weird, but also intriguing. But at the same time, I felt like, yeah, that's not really what I would think of when I would think science fiction. It goes a little bit too much over the edge. So Star Wars.
I would have actually gone for Tate on this one. Now, I think overall, obviously, I prefer Star Wars. I think that Tate argued for his movie and against Star Wars a lot more. I think Georgie did bring up that one point about the helicopter parts at the end, but there wasn't really much argument against the thing itself as a film. Whereas I think that Tate balanced his argument well with that. Although I like the points you made about Industrial Light and Magic. It's good that you went into like the film theory with that and what it actually made for cinema. But just down to the fact that Tate did argue for both films, I would have given it to Tate on that one. But that doesn't matter anyway, because Star Wars goes through to the next round.
Okay, now moving on to the next round. Who has Mad Max Fury Road?
It's George again, I think, isn't it?
Yep.
It's George again. So we've got Mad Max Fury Road versus Ex Machina. George, you're on the clock once Chris has it ready.
Yep, I will say as well, we've had some people commenting as well, giving you predictions throughout the night. So keep that going and let us know how you think the battle's going. So, George, for Mad Max Fury Road, your 1 minute starts now.
And I'm going to open my minute with the biggest criticism of Mad Max. It's about story of a car turning left and saying no. But it's so much more than that. The fact that such an awful plot can result in one of the greatest films put together in its existence is absolutely insane. If you look at everything from the stunt team of practical effects of them in the desert together, mixed with the color palette with the booming soundtrack from Junkie XL, this film should not have worked. And it works so well. It picked up, I think, 6 Oscars in the end. 5 or 6? I know it was 6. It's sweet, the technical awards. And Mad Max is just an absolute phenomenal masterpiece of a film that people are going to keep coming back to. The next 20 years ago, people think of great sequels. Mad Max is probably been the best one since The Dark Knight. It's going to make that eternal list of what film do you remember watching for the first time. Mad Max is that. And Ex Machina is a stunning film. Don't get me wrong, Ex Machina is stunning. But essentially, it's been there and seen it before. Arty film about some robot obsessive porn, and then he gets a droid named after him. Yeah, it's so weird. And it's
time, a minute. Tate, go.
Ex Machina is so much more than an artsy film. It is tense. It is completely tense from the opening moment. You're always thinking who's playing who in this film, and it changes. The power struggle changes throughout the film 7, 8 times as to who you think is actually in control of the center. Not only that, but the performances. It's a really kind of well-driven performance from Oscar Isaac and Donald Gleason. Like, brilliant. And Alicia Vikander plays the perfect robot in that film, really unforgiving with her emotions. When we talk about Mad Max Fury Road, it steals the music from other films. And not only that, but the action, it is, like you just said, they just turn left, and then it's just a car chase for the entire film. It fills out what people want from nowadays films. Sometimes people don't want plot, they just want action, and that's what that film does. When you really strip both the films back, Ex Machina is so much stronger in like almost every department other than...
30-second rebuttal. 30-second rebuttal. George, go.
Talk about performances. You've got Charlize Theron as Furiosa, easily one of the greatest women performances of the last like 5-10 years. And yours, Alicia Vikander. I'm sorry, but it's literally just like her face as a robot. It's not hard to be a robot. Not emoting is something that actors would dream of doing, and it's just overrated. It's good, but it's overrated. You know, a boss pranks this guy and they all die at the end, and the robot escapes. It says a lot about the film, and it's just one of those films where, come back to Mad Max, it's not about a car turning left. If it's so good that it can keep you entertained for 90 minutes.
30 seconds.
But it isn't about an emotionless robot. The whole idea of the film is about a robot passing the Turing test, whether it can actually be proven to have emotions and proven to be almost human. And it works because you're thinking throughout the entire film, sat in this character's boots. Is this robot, we can see that they are a robot, and yet we still believe their performance. And even at the end, they make you second guess it. And yeah, the robot escapes, but that is part of the plot. It's brilliant. It's fascinating.
And time.
And Fury Road isn't as much.
Whoa. Horses.
I will rebel you to hell, son.
Another great fight. I think I've actually been speaking to some people who fans on here, and they say they've always said that George and Tate, your feuds are the best things on this show. It's nice to see that you're continuing that. Yeah. So who wants to chip in first? I hate going first. Okay.
I will be honest, I haven't seen any of these films, so it's basically just based on arguments. But I will have to give this one, I think, personally, to Tate. I think that you managed to explain the film and just everything about it. Sure, Mad Max is a thrilling adventure action car chase film and probably is very exciting, but to discredit someone playing a robot is like, oh, it's an actor's dream to not emote. I think it actually takes a lot more skill to not emote than to emote. I mean, so many actors, because they're not emoting. That is bad acting. I think it's much stronger if you can try and force yourself not to emote and make it more convincing than just being a dull statue. So I'm going to give it to Tate.
Tom, what do you reckon?
It's tough. I too am going to have to give this one to Tate. I think the points were stronger, and the argument overall was more focused on the actual film. But both, I mean, not to discredit both arguments were, really good, and both films are extraordinary. But I just think Tate, had that little bit more.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought he was going to say more then for a second. I think I like both the passion and both of your arguments. You can tell that you both really like the movies that you're arguing for. I guess it's null and void at the minute. I'd probably gone with Tate as well. I think that he fleshed out sort of like the psychology behind the movie a lot more, and the themes within the movie. But again, I love both these movies. I would have liked to have seen a bit more about like the direction with George Miller and things like that. I know you talked about the Oscars, but maybe going into like the trials he went through to get that movie made in the first place, perhaps. But I'm just going to give it to Tate on this one. So
it's like impossible to like argue against that.
I know.
You did a good job.
Well, for a film that turned left, it was hard to argue against it.
Yeah. No, I have to. I want to go ahead and say I love Mad Max Fury Road and I love Ex Machina.
I love both of them. When that battle was drawn, I was like, "Fuck's sake."
Okay, guys, and now to finish off the left-hand side of the table, we have T2 Trainspotting versus The Shining. I have my timer ready. Are you ready, Tom?
I will be once I bring The Shining up on Wikipedia for reference.
Oh, Chris, cheating. Okay, Tom, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, and go.
Okay, so I'm not going to try and spoil the plot, because if people haven't seen it, it would be wrong of me. But this is a film that brings all the original cast of the first Trainspotting back into what I tried to describe with Hell or High Water is people reliving their past or coming back to a place that they once knew and finding everything just sort of stays the same. It's like it's in its own little bubble, and the people they knew are still in the same rut. And you have Renton, played by Ewan McGregor, coming back to his old town to find, things haven't really changed, and his friends are still in the same position they were 20 years ago when he ran off at the end of the original Trainspotting with, I think it was quite a bit of money. And there are references in here to The Shining. You have Robert Carlyle's character.
Stop.
The thing is with T2 Trainspotting is that whilst I still really enjoyed the movie, if we're looking at T2's kind of just a nothing movie. It's not really a necessary movie. Trainspotting has a beginning, middle, and end, and is conclusive in and of itself, to the point where we didn't get a sequel until 20 years after the fact. The Shining is without a doubt the greatest horror film ever made, and even if some people don't consider it to be the greatest made, it's always usually in the top 2, top 3 there. And I mean, direction-wise, Stanley Kubrick, this is without a doubt one of the most uneasy, unsettling, disturbing horror films you're likely to see. With an absolute powerhouse performances from the likes of Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall. it really just is that complete immersion of isolation, and you feel that as a viewer. The music as well is completely eerie, it's ghostly, it's haunting, it's everything you want to be from a horror movie, and you just see this absolute just regression of this character of Jack Torrance as the hotel takes over his mind. And it doesn't just take over his mind, it takes over the mind of the viewer as well. The film itself is
Tom, rebuttal, go.
Okay, so you talk about the music. The music in Trainspotting 2 is fantastic, and you will not find a better soundtrack. It is, so reminiscent of the first one, and you say it's unnecessary. It really isn't. They waited 20 years for a reason, because everyone aged and everyone was able to grow more and, find out what their characters had been doing for the past 20 years. And it's depressing, and Danny Boyle's color palette is fantastic in this.
Stop.
I love Frankie Goes to Hollywood as much as The Next Man, but the soundtrack in The Shining is so much superior. And it's not just that. The Shining spawned a second film called Room 237, which goes into all the themes and hidden messages and everything like that. And Kubrick's such a great director that he did litter those throughout the movie. The hotel itself is constructed in a way in almost like an Impossible Escher-esque design, which throws the viewer off. And maybe you don't notice that, but there's so many little hidden segments throughout this film. Really unsettling film. And there's a reason that people still hold this up as one of the best horror films. I watched it recently and still completely holds up.
Okay, I'm gonna go first.
I know what you're gonna say to me, and I hate myself.
Tom, you could have argued a lot more there. Once again, you fell into the Akira trap. When we were doing one of the other Battle of the Brackets, I decided not to spoil Akira, and I lost out on the opening round because of it.
Yeah,
because I wasn't willing to give away the plot to it. And sometimes you just got to give away the plot, because that sometimes is the best part about the film. I haven't seen Trainspotting 2 yet. I wanted to know more about Trainspotting 2, but not enough from this argument, because Chris' argument about The Shining, he just highlighted everything that's great about that film. So Chris gets the point.
Thank you. Who else wants to go?
Do you want to go first, Naomi? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, go Naomi.
I wish you did argue more for T2, because I haven't seen it, but with Tatum's argument for The Thing, I wanted to see that movie more, but I'm still not sure, because you didn't really argue more. And even if you did spoil it, it probably would have been like, And also, I don't think you really attacked The Shining that much. Whilst with The Shining, I'm actually going through reading the book at the moment, and I know it's very different from the Kubrick film, but there is a style to Kubrick's film that I think Chris did address on it and did very well defend on it. So I go to The Shining.
Thank you. And George, out of curiosity.
Yeah, it was going to be a bit of a clean sweep for Chris. What I would invite from Tom though is when Chris kind of said it was a point in the sequel that had beginning, middle, and end, Tom would have brought up that the book was set 20 years after as well. That would have helped it, especially when Chris spoke about his also point in the sequel to The Shining. But no, it doesn't matter because it wasn't said, it wasn't done, and I'm just squandering for time so I can press export on my image to show you what the halfway of round one image is. So yeah, I'm giving it to Chris. That means that Chris has a win. And if you look at the image right now, you should see that we have an updated bracket for round one. So already for 2 quarterfinals, we have Toy Story versus Star Wars and Angry Crazy Robot versus Angry Crazy Man in the Hotel. That's going to be something. Also, the entirety of the left half got wiped out, which is quite intriguing too. Very bizarre too. But yeah,
will we have the entirety of the right half wiped out in the second half?
Yeah.
That would also be very interesting.
It would be called physics. No, it wouldn't be called physics. It'd be called madness. Hashtag. I don't know what's happening. I'm just trying to get back to it.
Okay, guys, tweet that out. Hashtag yeah, I don't know what's happening. All one word.
Also, speaking of not knowing what's happening, do we actually explain what our bracket tonight is? Like, and the thought process behind it? I know we did in the update video, but did we actually do it at the start of this video?
Did I say it at the start of the video?
You did say it at the start of the video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just had to make sure. Yes, that was madness choosing them films because there was a lot of rivalry trying to get one film. But yeah, I won't lie. I'm still shocked Tate didn't pick La La Land because he did nothing but message me about it for a year before it came out. But
It was on my.
Maybe he
name
picked,
all of the things that
maybe
come on
he
our short.
picked La La Land, but it was actually Brooklyn that he chosen. You never know.
Mm.
Or Moonlight, to go with current tropes.
Moonlight. Actually, my pick was Moonlight, guys. Sorry. No. Okay. So as we're moving on to the second half of the bracket, we've got my pick of Kubo and the Two Strings versus Tom's pick of The Conjuring 2. The Battle of the Twos.
Right, I will man the timer for this one. I will also like to point out that at least Tate has gone for one movie that he talked nothing about for a year, which was Kubo and the Two Strings. Sorry, about the same. Yeah, I think you talked more about La La Land though, didn't you? Out of the two, but you did
Probably talked more about La La Land.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Kubo and the Two Strings. Minute on the clock. Tate, your time starts now.
Not only is Kubo and the Two Strings one of the greatest animated films ever made, but it might actually be the greatest stop-motion film that has ever been put to cinema. It is flawless. The animation, and you look back to the Aardman kind of animation styles, Wallace and Gromit, then you come and have a look at this now and how far they have come and how much they can do now with this technology. Not only to go with that, but the film itself has an amazing storyline to do with the two ways of dealing with death, the way that we deal with death in Western and Eastern civilization. And that is dramatized through a quest and about legacy. And it follows the character of Kubo, obviously, as he comes up with companions. It's engaging for people of all ages, and it's a phenomenally made film. Probably, well, it was the best film of last year, like, happily say that. When it comes up to The Conjuring, it falls into the modern day horror trap of doing way too many jump scares.
And
Not only
time.
that, but The Conjuring 2 wasn't as good as the original.
Time. Whoa. Okay, Tom, minute on the clock for Conjuring 2. Your time starts now.
Right. I will argue against the fact that it falls into the same trap as many of the other horror films nowadays, because James Wan is one of probably the best modern directors of horror, and he takes his characters from his original film and puts them in a situation, then dials everything up to 11, and it works. But he doesn't lose the sense of tension and dread that something's lurking around the corner, but there isn't a scare. It plays with your mind, and I think it's while I didn't like it or didn't review it that particularly that well, I still think it's a great piece of cinema, and so much better than the dredge of all the other horror films we get nowadays. And it doesn't lose that sense of identity it had from the first one. The characters are extremely likable, and Patrick Wilson singing Elvis Presley is always going to be a highlight.
And time. 30-second rebuttal, Tate.
It's really hard to actually compare these films together. However, there is one part in The Conjuring 2 which does have stop-motion animation in it, which looks absolutely god-awful. I saw a YouTube clip beforehand. What even was that? To go along with that, you've also admitted that this wasn't even the best film, best horror film that we could have done, and this is the greatest film reviewed by us. So you're kind of writing yourself out of the argument there. Kubo was just a brilliantly flawless animated film which covered every single bit of ground. The Conjuring 2 was a subpar.
Time. 30 seconds. Tom, go.
See, all the best films usually have flaws, and I think the fact that The Conjuring 2, the fact that I've picked it is a testament to how good its horror elements are and how likable its characters are. And I think really that's sort of the essence of what I'm trying to argue is that it doesn't play to the conventions of a regular horror film. It doesn't jump scare after jump scare, which is tedious and boring. It bides its time when it has to.
Time. Another good fight. Do you want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay. I'm sorry, Tom. I think I'm going to have to give this one to Tate. I think that, we are talking about like the greatest film that we've reviewed, and I think that Tate brought more reasons to why it is considered. Horror films are almost like a dime a dozen at this point, and I know you were going for like the character angle, but I would like to have seen more development there in terms of like James Wan's direction. I think Tate perfectly talked about the stop motion animation and the impact that had on animation itself, and all the elements of the thematic the thematics. What's the word I'm looking for? The themes of the film. I think he brought that up a lot more. So I think Tate's argument was a little bit more rounded. So I'm going to give it to Tate on this one.
I'm going to also give it to Tate. I thought that Tom did start strong, but then seemed a bit lost during the argument. There wasn't as much criticism at Kubo as there was at The Conjuring, and everyone knows I prefer attack to defense. So I've got to give it to Tate that he had a stronger argument in attacking, but also speaking about his film. And especially when Tom half mentioned that it wasn't the best horror film we've reviewed. But yeah, so that gives it its Tate from me.
Naomi?
Yeah, I do apologize for me cutting out earlier, but yeah, I agree. I'm giving it to Tate because Tom, you do the same thing that I do, which is too much in the defense of your own film and not enough attacking. I recognize that, and by saying that's not the best film that you have on the list and not the best horror film you reviewed, it kind of did sound a little bit like you were giving up. Whilst Tate, I love Laika. I think they're fantastic. Animation studio. I love pretty much anything that they do, but I would love to have heard more about like your attack. Like, Mom, I would love to hear you more attack on Kubo, but as it stands, Kubo wins.
It's a clean sweep for Kubo.
Oh, is it?
Cool.
Kubo and the 2 victories. Oh, poor.
Right, now, I think we're at the match now where
Yes,
this is the one I've been nervous about, like in the lead.
So, guys, the title fight for this first round is going to be Terminator 2 Judgment Day versus Jurassic Park. Now, when this got drawn out together, this along with the Mad Max Ex Machina, everyone just went, oh shit, that's going to be a good battle. And today we're going to have 2 mammoths of films colliding together. So I'm on the stopwatch. Are you guys ready? Going with Terminator 2 first.
Oh, I'm at first. Okay. I'm not ready.
Guys.
I'm not ready, but I'm going to try and make magic.
Please in the comments put who you think's going to win this one, because this is going to be interesting.
This is going to be down to the wire on this one.
We're ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, James Cameron had the absolute mammoth task with this movie because not only was the original Terminator one of the most groundbreaking sci-fi movies ever made, just critical acclaim, made on a really small budget, this movie had to do one thing, and that was be bigger than the first one, and that's what it absolutely was. It really ramped up the budget, the action, and not just that. It wasn't just a spectacle, the characterization as well. We're introduced to Sarah Connor again from the first movie, who is almost a completely different character in this movie, just to see how much she's evolved into arguably the second most memorable action heroine of cinema history. You've probably got Ripley at number 1, followed right by Sarah Connor. So to see that transformation in her character is phenomenal. And the journey that she takes, not only with her son, John Connor, but also with the Terminator. Again, another flip with this movie. We don't have Arnold Schwarzenegger as a bad guy. We have him as a good guy. It's a complete shift in characters for everyone, which makes it really interesting and makes the real antithesis of this movie in its characters and its themes. Not only that, but we have the spectacle as well. The CGI with the T-1000 was absolutely groundbreaking.
And go.
You want to talk about spectacle? This is Jurassic Park. This is the first time that dinosaurs were brought to life on screen via CGI and stop motion. But the ILM invented the technology to be able to animate these animals. That has changed cinema since that. That was revolutionary to the maximum. And that's just talking about, just some animals moving about. You want to talk about the other stuff, Spielberg at his finest. There is no greater director than doing that wonderful moment. And the minute you get the John Williams score looking out of the car, and they turn around and you're seeing these dinosaurs for the first time, is an absolute stunning feat of filmmaking. And it's a classic Spielberg. He goes into the joyous family moments, but then he can have the horror aspects at their best, such as the T-Rex killing people, the Velociraptors hunting. He can do everything from charming you to scaring you, and he makes you wanting to see more because he's just it's a perfect film done by one of the brilliant filmmakers. And the problem with Terminator 2 is that yours is a sequel. It has history to build off. This is nothing. This is just how do we get...
I would like to point out that Terminator 2 predated Jurassic Park by 2 years, so the CGI in this was completely groundbreaking even before we got to Jurassic Park. And also, Jurassic Park's a great movie, but really, as an audience member, you're just waiting for the dinosaurs. You are just in it for the spectacle, to see these larger-than-life creatures on screen for the first time. Terminator, you're not in it just for the spectacle, the great action, but the characters. It's a complete journey. It's a character journey. and it's a beautiful film from beginning to end, and you end conclusively where you can remove 3 and 4 and everything else that's going to have continuity.
Go.
You ready? People are in Jurassic Park for the dinosaurs. Well, obviously, it's called Jurassic Park is about dinosaurs. People only want to see Terminator because of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Then there's the horrible children, the screaming boy. Not screaming boys. Sorry, that's my fault. The awful thing is, Kyle, they spoil killing Arnold Schwarzenegger. The whole film was about him protecting this boy that no one likes. He's irritating and annoying. You want John Connor to die. You don't want the Terminator to die. You want John Connor to. Whereas mine, you want everyone to get out. You want to see them succeed. You want to do them well. It also enables to interact its characters with the dinosaurs.
Oof. Oof.
That I felt like that needed a bit longer for like both sides.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go first here. I was won over by. It was a very close fight, and there was a lot of kind of battling in there. But I was won over by 2 things that Chris said. One was the whole CGI coming first, and I remember I was replaying back the scene in my head of him melting through the metal bars and thinking, yeah, that was pretty cool CGI. And then Jurassic Park.
What I will
came
say
later.
It's different CGI for both films.
But
yeah.
But then what really won me over was the focus on characters. I'm in the Terminator films for the Terminator. I'm in it for Sarah Connor. I'm partially in it for John Connor. Yeah, sure, he's an annoying kid. But I see his importance within the plot. I couldn't actually name any of the characters off the top of my head, actual character names of any of the Jurassic Park characters. Maybe I haven't seen the film enough to do so, but that really won me over. I can name you the actors, but I can't name the characters, and therefore Chris gets the point.
Okay.
Tate sets the stage. Who's next?
I would
Good luck, everyone else.
give this one
Tom?
to George. I think his attack was much stronger and sort of really made you question, the pick of Terminator 2, and it has to have, baggage from the first one in order to be somewhat cohesive. But both films are very, 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 very good. Very good. So it's really difficult.
That's very good, by the way, for people at home.
That's so very good.
They were both outstanding films, but I just think George's attack won me over on it, I think. So it's going to have to go to Jurassic Park.
Naomi, you have the decider.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, no pressure.
Oh man, you both were really strong, and these are both movies that I absolutely love. But George's argument saying that you can't really get Terminator 2 without watching the first one. I watched Terminator 2 without knowing much about the first one, and it's honestly one of my favorite action movies. Jurassic Park is based off a book. And yes, there are loads of changes from the book, but it's still having to go off from that book. So I can't call that the proper argument because you still have the characters from that book. Whilst Terminator 2, yes, it does have characters from another, it is a sequel, but they develop those characters into something completely different. And yeah, I feel like Chris just somehow got it like on the head with, because the CGI from both films is still groundbreaking because they use both CGI and animatronics.
Yeah.
Do get much more memorable things from T2 in terms of its effects, whilst in Jurassic Park, all you just get is just dinosaurs, and you get that opening spectacle of everyone taking off the glasses, and that's pretty much it. That mostly from what you remember with the effects, and everyone keeps talking about. I mean, yeah, there are more, but remembers was again. There's so much from T2, so I'm gonna give it to T2.
I don't know how I managed that. I do not know how I managed that.
Wow. What a big battle that was. Huge. Okay, so Terminator 2 moves on through for what would be the second 2-bowl with Kubo and the Two Strings versus Terminator 2. Okay, next fight. Good luck, me. We've got Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back.
Oh God, am I up again?
Well, Bella
Versus Brooklyn.
Versus Brooke. Oh God, I need to remember that film.
Okay, Chris. Both of us are in this battle. So, is someone else going to get on the clock?
I can
Okay.
Oh, has someone got a clock?
Seeing as this is the first battle where me and Chris are actually in it together.
Yeah.
How much
You ready to
money
bring the
you
pain
looking for again?
tape?
We're looking for 1 minute. Oh, I will bring the Irish pain.
It's like 30 seconds.
Yeah, you're going to bring the Irish pain. I'm going to bring the
1 minute,
galactic pain.
and then a 30-second rebuttal. So 1 minute for the first one, then 30-second rebuttal
Okay.
afterwards.
Okay, everyone ready?
So Chris, you're up first.
Okay, I'm going to start now.
And go.
Empire Strikes Back. Where do I start? This is a film that's held up there with not only the greatest sequels ever made, but some of the greatest films ever made. It's easily within like the top 5 of most countdowns you see. And again, very similar to my argument with Terminator 2, this had the absolute incredible task of following on from the success of the original Star Wars film. How did it do that? It divides the characters, it enhances the characters, it enriches the characters, and it takes them all, it pushes them to their darkest physical, psychological places they can go. And that's where, this is why Empire is usually most Star Wars fans' favorite film, because of that characterization of all of them. And let's go for the common theme here between my film and your your film Brooklyn. Sorry, the theme of love. Now, your film Brooklyn very much has just the everyday boy meets girl, girl meets guy thing. And, you know, there's the misunderstanding and the slump in the second act of the film. They get back together at the end. Han Solo and Princess Leia. This is like sort of like Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. The banter between
Stop.
these characters.
Stop.
Jeez.
Sorry, was that Han Solo, Luke, and Princess Leia as the giant love triangle that had to be completely changed in Return of the Jedi? Brooklyn is so much more than just a simple love film. It really does. You see character development from the really shy person at the start of the film to the bold woman at the end of the film. And it really does show that kind of the immigration process and what came with that, and the amount that she had to sacrifice to get there, and what she had to sacrifice when she was there. The entire film is based around her going over, her falling in love, her getting a life over there, then having to come back due to tragedy. And really, the entire plot hinges on her going back to Ireland and it being better than it was before and missing home. And everyone can relate to that. It's so down to earth. Star Wars is out there and it's a brilliant film. But when you want a real down-to-earth film, and I think this film will stand up the test of time because it only has been released for just over a year. But this film, it's got stuff to it. It really does, and it isn't given as much credit as it should be.
You want a down-to-earth film? That's what Star Wars is brilliant, because these are down-to-earth characters that we can connect with, even though it's in an intergalactic setting. And I haven't even talked about the spectacle of this film. The Battle of Hoth, for example, is one of the best spectacles in cinema history. Irving Kershner, fantastic directing, and the greatest movie twist of all time, I Am Your Father. It's quoted all the time. There's a reason people remember this. It's one of the greatest films ever made. As I said, Brooklyn, it's the tried and tested romantic movie that we've seen in hundreds of other movies. Empire Strikes Back is really something special. And you talk about Saoirse Ronan being an empowering female. Look at Princess Leia.
You see character revelations from Aisling's character. Like, it is so much more than just a simple romantic film. You really are underselling it. And I know you like the film, and I know you're doing that on purpose. With Star Wars, there are a lot of errors due to the film. With Brooklyn, it's a pretty flawless film, but it's like I could pick apart Star Wars over an hour if you gave me the time. What you're really saying here is that your film has a larger spectacle. This film doesn't need a larger spectacle. It has it on its own level. It's in a completely different category to Star Wars as far as film genre, but it isn't.
This was tough to argue these two. They're like completely different movies.
Yeah, completely different movies.
Who wants to go first?
Okay. Oh, are you going, George?
Do you want to go? No, I don't really know where I stand on it. Taking aside that I've never seen Brooklyn, the Empire Strikes Back, my favorite film of all time, I'm being neutral. I
have to try this.
It's phrasing it. It's phrasing it that's the key. So the arguments, I like the fact that Chris spoke about, the romance being a subplot, and that's your film as well. Tate fought back, and I think I think there was essentially more meat on the bone for Chris's argument that, Tate says there's character revelations, but you didn't go into any detail of her revelation, whereas Chris spoke about what his guys were going through individually. I thought that was just
home. I did mention that in the argument.
You mentioned her returning home, but not that being a character revelation. Someone that hasn't seen the film, I was expecting to say, "Oh, did she do something amazing, like dump him because it's a romance film?" But
it's not a simple romance film.
But it sounded like it because they mentioned
Chris,
they're going, they get back together at the end.
Yeah.
And I think as terms of arguments go, there wasn't enough on Attack on Empire Strikes Back as there was on Brooklyn because it bettered it. So I'm going for Chris. Does that sound like I wasn't being biased?
That's unbiased. That's fine. That's fine.
It's just phrasing that one.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, I give it to Chris.
Yeah, I'd probably have to do the same. I think Tate had it up until his rebuttal where he kind of meandered and didn't really get his point out. I think they both are, but yeah, it's Star Wars, isn't it? Really? Plus, I mean, talking personally, I mean, I picked Chris because the argument was much better, but Brooklyn is a fucking shit movie.
You should have been arguing this, Tom. You should have been arguing this. See, I didn't use charged words like that.
Can I just say one thing now? I know, actually, no, let Naomi say, then I'll say what I've got to say.
Okay. I will be honest. I haven't seen Brooklyn, and films with mostly romance in them aren't really my cup of tea, if I'm completely honest. Which is why I probably do prefer Empire, because there's not so much focus on it, and it's just like it blossoms kind of naturally for me. But kind of basing it on the arguments, I think Tatum was just kind of focused on just one point and really trying to defend that one point, whilst Chris was going a lot more into, like, especially when you talked about the Battle of Hoth, which I love because I love stop frame animation. Harryhausen is one of my icons, even though he didn't do this film, but I still love stop frame animation, and that is a great moment. Again, Tate, you just kind of talked about this one moment and not really much meat into it, so.
Chris, you really undersold the film.
That's my job, isn't it?
Can I just say?
I know, but I'm.
Can I say one final thing about Brooklyn? Wow. Tate said it's going to stand the test of time, but 1 year on, the world's forgotten about it.
That is very
no. There is a TV show in the works.
So they'd rather it be a TV series than a film series.
How are they going to make a TV show? Does she just go back home every week?
It's a spin-off.
No, it's based on the boarding house that they were set up in.
It'd be like Mrs. Brown's
in America.
HBO are buzzing with excitement to get the rights to it.
BBC have the rights.
I'm sorry.
Dear.
The main character of Brooklyn is a fucking bitch.
Oh,
she is. I'm sorry, Tate, but she is. I don't. But,
I'm gonna let him talk about Saoirse like that, Tate.
No, I'm not. Okay. I'm not. Okay, so Empire Strikes Back goes through, and now we have our final battle of the first round with the Double V Itch versus the Dark Knight.
Oh dear. Oh, here we go. The best of British.
Okay, I'm going to get my timer out. Okay. Are you ready, guys?
Oh, who's first?
3, 2, 1.
You're first.
Oh, the Double V Itch.
Okay.
And go.
Okay, right. So The Witch by Robert Eggers is probably one of my favorite horror films in recent memory. It's tense, it's frightening, and it really plays up its themes over its plot. And it's about guys, get kicked out of town, shack up in the woods, and shenanigans happen with crazy witches. But the horror elements to it are just, they really make just get you going.
We'll add the time back on.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm pausing the clock. Okay. Close up.
What did I say?
I paused the clock, dude. Don't worry.
Okay. Right.
Talk about the bitch.
Yeah. Okay. So, ready to start the time again?
Yes, I'm ready to start the timer again.
Okay, cool. Right. So it's the sense of isolation that his characters feel as they slowly go insane. And, it harkens back to films like The Shining being evident as one of the greatest influences on this film. And it does something completely different with its genre. And I think really is a real testament, and as a directorial debut, is a fantastic piece of work.
And stop. Go.
You're talking about horror film. It made it sound like a comedy, and I'm pretty sure I've read that a goat turns into a human, and then he turns back into a goat at the end of it, and they go flying up in the air. Let's talk about The Dark Knight, the greatest superhero film ever made that stand the test of time, as one of the greatest trilogies of all time as well. Christopher Nolan finally gets his powerment over Warner Bros. And he opts for themes. You see in these awful sequels that they go for the big explosions. He goes, no, I'm going to tell a story first. I'm going to go through the struggles of my hero. It's about taking things further. They take his one relationship with Rachel. They turn the comic book genre on itself. He doesn't save the damsel in distress. She gets blown the hell up by the villain. Speaking of the villain, Heath Ledger's Oscar-winning performance as the Joker changed cinema. Everyone goes back to this Joker. So the fact that someone could outperform Jack Nicholson in a film is absolutely remarkable, and he did that in that way. Everyone speaks about Heath Ledger's performance. No one speaks about The Witch at all. There are other horror films that people speak about. You didn't really even talk about The Witch properly, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds to. But yeah, The Dark Knight is the first.
Go.
Okay, you talk about The Dark Knight, but its ending is one of the most long and tedious endings ever. It builds up. There's so much tension that you kind of get bored and kind of go, well, when is this actually going to end? It has about 5 different endings, all happening at the same time. And it really, after the Joker's defeated, what is the real point? Why do we need to see more of Harvey Dent when he wasn't really the main threat of the film? And fuck.
And fuck.
Okay, and go.
Harvey Dent, the whole point of the film was building him up to become the villain. It's about the Joker twisting him. That's why he kills Rachel. It's twisting Harvey into everything he's against. And that's character development. There's nothing wrong with that. He takes the reign as the bad guy. He ultimately has to die, and they have to break the one rule. Batman to save, not the city, but to save Harvey, to save what he's done. And there's nothing wrong with having tension. That builds up verily. And it's that tense moment. Both clocked it to Harvey, thinking, who's going to die? When that big guy chucks out the window, I thought he was going to blow him at first time around.
And
The Witch.
I'm going to give it to George with The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I think I'd like, not to bring up the whole Empire. I just think there's more to talk about with The Dark Knight, more themes, more, the acting in it. I would have liked to have seen you talk about your film a little bit more, and maybe, I know you attacked like the ending, but it's so difficult when it's The Dark Knight. George just had the better argument to me. But I will say though, Tom, you have had one of the most entertaining arguments we've ever had in the history of Battle of the Brackets. So
I'm not gonna lie, nothing's gonna beat Gungan versus Matrix.
Yeah,
as far as entertaining arguments. But with Tom's argument, I quite liked his opening argument, minus the whole laughing fit.
Yeah.
Within the middle, he was starting to move on some good points, comparing it to The Shining, saying it was like a psychological horror with actual horror elements in there. I quite like that argument. But then, you're on ground floor. George is somewhere up in a skyscraper somewhere. His argument completely overwhelmed you, to the point where instead of criticizing the film in general, you just criticize one area of the film, like a very, very tiny area of the film, literally the final 5 minutes of the film, and nothing else criticized. So yeah, it's going towards George, but Tom, you need to be more aggressive with your arguments, man. Do bring back that Blade Runner stuff.
He's like Jeff Bridges in Big Lebowski.
Sorry, I just want to make you feel guilty of that, because I just want to remind you that you could take down your favorite film of all
just
time.
like my opinion, man. Okay.
Oh, do you guys want me to put the picture up? Sorry, it's been ready.
Oh,
Yes.
and
By the
Naomi,
way,
Naomi.
I would have said Dark Knight anyway, because Tom, you were getting better with your arguments, and I'm proud of that. Minus the laughing fit, but again, I am basing it off arguments because I haven't seen The Witch. But I'm just to attack one specific thing is not enough. Try and get more things. Whilst Chris definitely seemed to have the stronger argument overall, so yeah, Kinda
mean
goes
George?
To him, but yeah. So I have placement at like 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'm getting tired. Help.
Yeah. I think is this the first time someone's lost everything in round one? Sorry to like further dismay the game.
No, I've done it once before. I
That's
cannot
right.
remember.
I just wanted you to admit it. Yeah, if we have a look at the screen, we almost lost the entire of the right side.
Yeah.
Tom, you let us down.
I know. Tom, where was that argument for the bitch?
We have Toy Story versus Star Wars in round 2, Ex Machina versus The Shining, Kubo and the Two Strings versus Terminator 2, and The Empire Strikes Back versus The Dark Knight in battle of the greatest sequel of all time. Wow, that's going to be special.
I am going to go to the toilet quickly.
Okay.
So if you guys want to do a
We
bit
will
of filler.
take this time to have a breather, talk about the matches that have come before, and also go to any comments that we have. So people, feel free to ask us any questions, anything regarding the brackets, anything you like before we get to round 2.
I'll go through a couple of comments. Sheila says it's been hilarious. George and Tate battling is golden. It kind of always is. I would say it's kind of become a running joke that while he's not here, I guess I can say it. He gets triggered every time that I mention that I beat him, and it doesn't matter what battle of the bracket it's been. He gets fuming, and he prepares and prepares and prepares for the next ones, and that's why it makes it funner to dismantle him every time, because he knows that I'm going to turn up without having Googled anything about anyone's films and just disassemble them. And yeah, I mean, that's what I kind of wanted to say.
Yeah, I'll say as well that, I mean, I mentioned this yesterday with the updates, that the behind-the-scenes stuff when it comes to Battle of the Brackets is always some of the most entertaining stuff. I mean, I know you get it on here on the show, you get some of the bickering, some of the back and forth, but the stuff in the lead-up is just amazing, especially with you, with George. And
I want to actually go ahead and say that I actually accurately predicted the first round completely.
I think most people probably could have, in all honesty. The only half chance.
No, there was a two-way swing.
It was between
on two
Jurassic
of them.
Park and Terminator, I thought.
Or Mad Max and Ex Machina.
No, personally, I didn't think Mad Max had much of a chance. Once because Ex Machina is a story and Mad Max is a car chase. That's what I personally thought when I got drawn against Ex Machina. Mad Max isn't a film that could be Ex Machina. It's a film that could be a lot of other films. That's one way of putting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, is that everyone's? Tom, do you have any comments around one?
That's just going on round one.
What, 4 attempts to try and get an argument together?
I won't lie. We were doing research in the last tournament, and you've actually won this second most. Chris has won the most Battle of the Brackets. Tom is second. I am third, and Tate's last. But like, I mean, Al's been in 2 and he's won 1, and Tate's been in like what 7 or 8 and he's only won 1 as well. So like, he gets really triggered.
But I won the original one. The first winner. I'll always have that.
Right,
I haven't actually won a Battle of the Brackets fight that's been about movies.
It's been almost a year since you've won it, to put it into perspective.
It's been almost a year since we started these.
But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, it doesn't look like we've got any other comments, so shall we get to round 2 then, I guess?
Yeah.
Ding, round 2. So in round 2, first battle we have is Toy Story versus Star Wars and New Hope.
Let me just say, before...
was-
I will say that, okay, the one I was dreading the most was this one. There was also, obviously, the Terminator Jurassic Park one. This, I told myself I was going to make notes for. I didn't, so I'm completely unprepared for this fight, and I'm trying to think of anything to argue now, and this is going to be messy. This is going to be, like, you know, just dead air probably for a minute.
Toy Story is going first. Are you ready?
Oh, is it? Oh, no, I'm not ready, but we're going to do this against original Star Wars. Okay. Okay. Give me a countdown.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, here's the thing with Star Wars. It was completely groundbreaking, revolutionary, all that, we know that. But when you break down Star Wars to its core, It was all built off pre-existing story tropes, character tropes, and iconography from many other sci-fi, such as there was Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, I believe. It did do its own thing with it, but it was still based off something before. Toy Story was a completely original idea. It was the first ever CGI animated film. And if we do look at Star Wars, and I mean, yes, it's still a great film, but there are many things in that film that don't hold up today. Toy Story, even though it's the first CGI animated movie, it still completely holds up in an incredibly competitive film market. I mean, we're at the stage now where animated films are just completely rife everywhere, CGI animated, but Toy Story 1 still completely holds up, and you go back to it. I mean, I know this is up for debate. It's still my favorite Toy Story film, and I know many people I talk to have it as their favorite Toy Story film. Star Wars, you know, groundbreaking CGI, everything like that, but since then, CGI, you know, just sci-fi has adapted, and fucking hell.
You're saying, you know, Star Wars is, oh yeah, it's kind of criticized that it was groundbreaking, but your film was groundbreaking. So to criticize one because yours is pointless, and it's ridiculous to compare animated films aging with live action films. Are completely different animatronics themselves. But Star Wars, yes, it is based off pre-existing stuff. There's elements are taken from other stories. There's nothing wrong with that because he's done his own spin on them. He's done exactly, you said, oh, iconography. The most iconic thing about Star Wars is the lightsabers, and that was his own design. Yes, it's a sword, but as its own thing. It's new, it's original. One thing I do have to say, because you have to say it, without Star Wars, there is no Toy Story. George Lucas created Lucasfilm Graphics, which he sold and became Pixar. Without Star Wars, Toy Story doesn't exist. It probably wasn't there. Some of the guys that worked on Toy Story worked with him in the Star Wars films. It's a very different environment. But then, look at the characters. You know, I'm speaking mama. We introduced these lovable characters. Yes, yours are, but mine's all about the characters, how they react together. With yours, it's, yes, Woody's meant to be a jerk, but you get tired of him. You like the background characters more than you like the forefront character as mine.
The fact that I have animated characters and they feel like living people, they feel like real people, just is testament to the film of Toy Story. The dialogue in Star Wars, I'm sorry, in the original Star Wars is awful. It's not good dialogue at all. And the dialogue absolutely sizzles off the film of Toy Story. Complete witty banter. As I said, they feel like real characters and you're watching animated characters on the screen. This was a completely original thing. No one had seen a film like this before. And just look at what this has done for the foundation of animated films to the point where we're at now. It's really remarkable. Star Wars, as I said, it's a fun adventure film, but that's it.
Go.
You say Star Wars has got awful dialogue, but I'm sorry, it was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. That's something that a lot of people are going to disagree with you on. And terrible dialogue, I'm sorry, it's got some of the most memorable lines in cinema. May the Force be with you. There's plenty of them across the film. And in terms of iconic, you've got music with the John Williams theme blaring over the top. And the other thing with Toy Story is it's developed more in the second film, but Toy Story is kind of a parody of Star Wars itself with the father dynamic. They tease it throughout the first film with Emperor Zurg, and we find he's his father. A key element of the Toy Story franchise is taken. That's such a weird battle because it's...
yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay. Naomi, you can go first.
Oh, thanks for that. This is kind of hard, but I think what kind of sold me was Chris saying about the dialogue, because in my head is at the moment is just Carrie Fisher in her more kind of British accent saying, "I recognised your foul stench when I was brought on board," and it's like, oh, Luke.
That's a great line.
I do like that line.
It is, but it's just directed so badly. And
It was nominated for Best Director.
Without Star Wars, there wouldn't be Pixar. But you could say that there wouldn't be this without this for a lot of things. I mean, without SNL, you wouldn't have Adam Sandler. Not always the greatest.
That's a good
thing.
thing.
I hate SNL. Why is it a thing?
But yeah, you always remember. So they're both very iconic films, but you do have such a warmth with Toy Story. And yeah, Woody can be an asshole, but it's Tom Hanks, and you can rarely hate on Tom Hanks. Very rarely.
I can. Give me 10 minutes.
Including Da Vinci Code.
Just mention the word Polar Express.
Yeah, Polar Express.
Or that Tom Hanks always saves the day. Tom Hanks always saves the day, like every film.
True, he does.
But yeah, I do have a certain warmth with Toy Story and Out of the Argument. Both very well argued, but I think Chris just hit it on the top.
Thank you. I don't know how, but thank you.
Okay. Tom, do you want to go next?
Yeah. And I think there's going to be a decider. Because I just think George's attack. You know, he's much more attack than defense of his own film, and I think that really shone through in the attack on Toy Story. It was a tough one to decide who gets the point, because both films are equally as groundbreaking as the other. You know, your argument about ILM and how it pretty much made Toy Story won me over, George. So you get the point.
Down to you, Tate.
Yeah, thanks. What I can say is that argument definitely didn't win me over, and I feel like George wasted that part. This entire bracket is based around the greatest film we have reviewed, and saying a film, we're not focusing on what the film has kind of done as far as creating the actual Pixar and stuff like that. Sure, it can be part of the argument, but I personally disregard that as far as the argument for why it's a better film. But saying that, I genuinely think, minus that, George still had the better argument overall. So I'm going to give the point to George.
That's fine.
You always gave me a heart attack then. I was like, fuck. I won't lie, like, that was...
Go on.
How can you argue Toy Story? Like, they're so different. Like... Oh no, that was the one. I mean, I didn't really say it before, but when we all spoke about it, I was like, how the hell are we going to do Toy Story?
Yeah. It was in these moments when you start like thinking, I can't think of a single fault in Star Wars. Like, how the hell am I going to manage a minute and a half of this? Yeah. I did my best. That's fine. Star Wars, I obviously prefer Star Wars.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
Oh yeah. It's great
lines.
though. It's shit, but it's great. That's why I love it.
No,
but it's
got
great.
the most memorable lines.
Yeah, it has.
It's a great screenplay.
Take a sip of drink.
Aren't you a little bit tall? Be a stormtrooper.
It's a valid point.
What's wrong with that?
I think to be in the 501st, you do have to be a particular height requirement, right? I think I don't know what it is exactly.
But... the clones from like Jango Fett all the way back, or do we not count the prequels anymore? Do we not like even acknowledge them?
We count the prequels, but
oh no, the prequels are the primary source of memes in this meme economy right now. So we got to acknowledge the prequels at least.
I love the prequels. I could talk for them for hours.
Or did you not recognize them because of their red arm?
With his two left hands now.
Right, so that is round one of round two, I guess.
Round one of round two.
We move on to the next one, which I don't know what it is.
Oh, sorry, do you want to know the image? It is Ex Machina Shining.
Oh, fuck. Okay.
The Shining is up second. And I've realised that Chris has 4 battles in a row now.
Yep. Chris, you're going to be doing more battles because you've also got Terminator 2 coming up.
It's the classic rope-a-dope strategy. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
If it works for Rocky, it's going to work for me.
Yeah, but you're rope-a-doping yourself.
Like to leave that part out. Okay.
Who's on the timer then?
I'm arguing, so I can't be on timer.
I'll go on it again.
I am arguing, so I can't be on timer. Okay.
Are you on timer? Okay.
People get commenting. Sorry, go on.
Oh wait, who?
Is anyone,
do you want me to time it, or I don't know? I'm trying to find out.
Someone time it.
Okay, ready? 3,
Yeah.
2.
These two films are phenomenal thrillers, and one of them is more kind of a horror thriller, and the other one is more of a science fiction thriller. And those are really the grounds that you can really compare these two on. Not only that, but you can compare them on their performances. And yes, sure, Jack Nicholson's performance, brilliant in The Shining. But that's the only performance in the entire film which I'm willing to say was good to any extent. You've got 3 incredible performances coming out from Ex Machina, from all 3 of the characters in the film. Similar with Shining, funnily enough. But not only that, but like they engage with you. Like, you actually feel like you are in there, in the center, and you feel like you're performing the tests. You yourself are judging the members of the film, and they add that element in there. It is cutting-edge sci-fi as well, because you think this is actually possible to some extent. We're starting to get animatronics in there. and it makes it current, and it makes it relatable to our own generation. And it also makes us worried and scared because... Oh, that was a minute.
Okay, I'm going to say it. Domhnall Gleeson's character in that one for the main character is a complete and utter wet blanket. I think he's a fantastic actor in, but that movie, the focus is on, Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander. The Shining, I think everyone's roles in the fantastic. And Shelley Duvall, let's talk about her for a second because you pointed criticism at her. There's a scene in this movie, and it's not a one shot, but it feels like it when you watch it, that Stanley Kubrick made Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall do. I think it's up there with like 120 times just consecutively, one after the other, to a point where she was emotionally drained, broken down. And that was Kubrick's way of directing to get her to that point in the film, which makes it a completely believable performance. Your film both deal with isolation in different ways, but I think the hotel of the Overlook Hotel is a much more haunting place because it is broader. There are more places you can go to. There are more places to explore. But that haunting, ghostly quality is in every single frame of the film, right from the opening shot. And it's a slow build. It's a slow build horror film. And you know, when it gets to that point of the horror, even then it's staggered. And you really see that regression of the character of Jack Nicholson played phenomenally. His standout performance.
Stop.
And you don't see the regression of Oscar Isaac's character throughout the entire film, as you realize that his character is insane. And he slowly realizes it, and then he sobers up for one scene when he thinks he's going to try and plot his escape with Alicia Vikander. And it's just intense because you just don't know whose side the Alicia Vikander is playing. Jack Torrance in The Shining, you always know that he's going to go insane. You always do. That is always evident from the very start. You don't know what's going to happen next, Mackinac, and that's what makes it a brilliant thriller. It's not predictable.
I think you ultimately do know where that movie is going, and it kind of ties everything up in a neat little bow at the end of that film, whereas The Shining, it's almost directed like a sort of experimental film, and it leaves everything up to the imagination of the viewer, and that's what makes it interesting. You can watch The Shining any number of times and come away with a different conclusion about it, which adds to that uneasiness. Like, you are in that situation, you don't know what to believe, you don't know if it is haunted or if it's all in their heads, you really don't know. And Oscar Isaac starts off as a creepy weirdo. Jack Nicholson, you see that when he moves from a family man, and the slow regression of his character throughout the 3-hour running time of The Shining, and it's done beautifully. It's a great character study.
Stop.
Jesus. That was tough. That was tough. They were both really similar films as well. It's weird.
They are so similar when you actually think about it.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? Because I'm still deciding.
I shall. I've made up my mind. And Tate, your 30 seconds rebuttal, I think it was, kind of ran out of steam, I think, in terms of your arguments. I think Chris just made a few more stronger points in that than perhaps you could have done. And both are superb films, and you know, that's not arguing that, but you know, it's going to have to go to Chris.
Naomi.
God, this was a tough fight.
Oh gosh, I'm still head around it because it was a really good fight, very similar films. But I am remembering something about what Tate said, which is you can always tell that Jack is going to go crazy, which is very something that is within the film. I know in the book he's very much just a regular man, and I know in the TV miniseries he still feels like a regular man. But with this direction with Jack Nicholson, I don't know if it's just the way that Kubrick directs it, or if it's just like the way that Jack Nicholson portrays it. But you can always tell that he is going to go crazy. He is going to go mad. And I don't know. I'm not sure if it's just something there, but that still was very poignant. What tips it in favor to Tate for me?
I think that's just Jack. He's just a crazy guy in real life. Like, it's the reason he was cast as the Joker. Go on, George.
With Prince all over.
I'm torn because they're both very similar setups. Especially when Chris said, "Oh, there's only like 3 characters in my film as well," or something like that. And I was like, "Shit, that's true." And I thought Tate had the really strong argument of, you know, he's going to go crazy from the first minute you watch it. And I was like, well, that's a good shout. And then Chris mentioned, well, no, we see him as the family man. And that bit kind of struck me most from the argument, but then also what sealed it. I think before where Chris was speaking about Kubrick's directing, where, you know, I hate that woman in The Shining. I say despise her. But I thought Chris made that good point with the you know, the Kubrick director into being like that, because I have read that line before. And I thought there was a strong argument, but Chris brought the better defense and the attack onto I forgot.
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. Yeah, especially when he spoke about, you know, we know that Oscar Isaac's a creepy weirdo from the minute we meet him. And it's true, as much as I like it, that General Hooks is a wet blanket in the film. But yeah, I thought Chris had the stronger overall argument of the attack and the defense, which is a rarity that I like people defending. But no, so that means, is that 2-1? I wasn't really paying attention, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
Okay.
yeah.
So Chris gets that. Okay. So The Shining.
I'm sorry. I love Ex Machina. Ex Machina is an amazing film.
That could have gone your way then.
Yeah. I will concede the point as well that
Okay.
Jack Nicholson does start off that movie as a creepy weirdo, because I realised as I was
So
making that
crazy at the
argument
start.
from the first shot of him, he's doing the creepy Jack Nicholson eyebrow raise thing. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
just Jack.
Are you guys ready to fight again with Kubo versus Terminator 2?
Oh, I'm going first again.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, I'll set.
Okay, give me a minute. Give me about 20 seconds. I'm just trying to think.
Jesus.
Just prepare yourself.
He's on the ropes, ladies and gentlemen.
He's on the verge of. Is Tate got a film through yet? This is
This is my last film.
Is this why he's triggered?
No, it's why I'm thinking about my argument
We said
carefully.
before
Okay, I'm ready.
about Kubo. 3,
Yep.
2, 1, go.
Okay, so to start off with, I want to point out that Terminator 2, when you look back on it, is a stupendously cheesy film. If it was modern day directed, it probably would have been a Michael Bay film. And I'm not going to lie, but you look back at the dialogue from that film, and it is just one-liners left, right, and center. And yeah, sure, that is appealing to those kind of audiences. But I feel like a general audience, people into the Terminator franchise, they would not be happy with that. I'd rather, like, show them Terminator 1, then just leave it there. When you look back at Kubo and the Two Strings, on every single level, you can see something that appeals to someone. You've got the lower down level to the fact that it is an animated film and the main actor is a child or a young adolescent, and he is a storyteller. Everyone can get behind someone who is able to tell stories. You then have the deeper meanings behind the quest and the amount that they've gone through, and it allows there to be discussion within the family more than just it was a simple animated film.
I think if we're going to compare these two films, because I mean, completely different films, again, the one element we can really compare these is just like motherhood and, like, you know, a mother and her child, her son. And that's really what the antithesis of this movie is, Terminator 2. And whereas your film, spoiler alert, she sacrifices herself for her son, in this we see that continued sacrifice, and we see this change in Sarah Connor from the first movie. And you don't even need to see the first movie to see what an absolute badass this character is. We open with her in a mental ward. She's got this disability. She's trying to escape. And then we really see her come into her own. And that's where, you know, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor is one of the best action heroines we've ever seen, coupled with Arnold Schwarzenegger as well. Just fantastic protagonist in this, and it's good that he gets some material to work with in this movie. He's not just sort of like the lumbering horror thriller stalker character, whatever he is in the first movie. There's more to him than this. And just coupled with that, you've got the spectacle as well. I've talked about the CGI. You've got a fantastically memorable villain as well. And if we're going to talk about villains, what about the villain in your movie? You've got Ralph Fiennes playing him, but that end battle, it's just really underwhelming.
The end battle is just what brings together the entire film completely. With your film, there are some elements which I just can't get past. For example, in the actual trailer for the film, they spoil to say that Arnie is now a good guy. And I can't get past that when rewatching the film, because it makes you think, well, people already knew he was going to be a good guy. That removes that kind of plot twist from there. When you compare the animation or CGI between the two, Kubo is leagues above, million miles away. And if you're really comparing on that grounds, for the technology available at the time for your film and my film, if you compare them, it's better.
Okay, I don't know which trailer you're watching of T2, but the original trailer for Terminator was a teaser just showing the T-800 getting constructed, which is one of the best teaser trailers of all time. Didn't show anything or give anything away like that, which kept the audience guessing. You talk about
I'll show you the trailer.
Talk about emotional You talk about emotional resonance at the end of the film. That's exactly what Terminator did. Terminator sacrificed himself at the end of the day. They destroy the chips. They avert Judgment Day. And from that, Sarah Connor learns to accept machines, John Connor learns to accept machines, and that whole divide that she went through in the first movie and for the substantial amount of this movie, she learns to
Stop.
Well fought. God damn.
Jeez.
Yeah, I think I need some water.
I've just had the toughest fights today. It's ridiculous. I'm not going to catch a break.
I'm going to say
always
this.
gonna have
I
tough
think
fights.
this has been the toughest battle of the brackets I've ever done.
I think everything's so not random, but like you're thrown against completely different films, whereas normally it's like a genre or a moment you can match it to. But it's
and I think for the most part as well,
it's...
we love all these movies as well. Like both of them on either side, so that makes it even tougher.
Who wants to go first? I'm genuinely struggling for this.
Oh.
Same, especially since I'm still rattling around Tate's first comment about how Terminator 2 could be made by Michael Bay, because fuck that. If Michael Bay made that Terminator 2 now.
It was a backhanded comment.
I didn't even want to dignify that with a reply, so that's why I didn't.
Bayhem would save Terminator, I give you that.
Because I hate Michael Bay, okay?
I love them. Please say, is someone ready to give an answer? Because I kind of have half of one, but I don't know. Do you want me to talk? Can I talk and see if I get an answer out of talking?
Go for it.
Well, I've never seen Kubo, and in all honesty, I'm not the biggest T2 fan. As in Terminator 2, not Trainspotting 2, sorry. So it's an interesting battle, because I don't know I'm not joking, I don't know anything about Kubo, so I was relying on what each of you told me, which actually kind of made it more intriguing. And the fact that Ralph Fiennes is the villain, and he was wasted, I'm kind of mesmerized. Like, why is a film with Ralph Fiennes and not being like marketed that he was in it? I mean,
that was another backhanded comment.
Well, actually, do I have to check? Was Ralph Fiennes
you
genuinely
admitted
the villain?
that. You have admitted that to me on the review of Kubo, that the ending with the villain is underwhelming. Just saying.
They had Voldemort and they wasted him. That's unforgivable as a villain. And I'm so happy that Chris brought it up. However, the biggest thing for me is the trailer. Because everyone knows the Terminator 2 was spoiled in the trailer. Chris spoke of the teaser and said shush because he knows it's true in the second trailer. But
was it in the second trailer?
You'd know everyone. You probably don't, but we do. But I don't. Me personally, like, I kind of disregard that because I mean, I wasn't alive in 1991. None of us were. Like, we didn't see the trailer before we saw the film. We just probably saw Terminator 2 when we were younger. So I don't know if I'm allowed to disregard that or not, because I don't really disregard people's comments. But the trailer stuff, whether someone else is ready to have an opinion yet, but I'm still kind of half choosing. But at the minute, I think Chris had the stronger argument. But I didn't know the comparisons that, you know, the mother sacrificing herself, whereas Chris explained why he sacrificed himself rather than just say it. But I don't know. Is Tom or Naomi ready? Because
yeah.
Can you go first and I'll do mine? Because I think I'm there, but I don't want to declare.
Okay, so the bold statement by Tate at for his opener was astonishing. But you pitched it very well, and you put that point across, and if I hadn't have seen the film, that comment might have won me over. But I think just the stronger arguments about sort of the sacrifice elements, she's sacrificing herself more than just with her death in Terminator. Sarah Connor doesn't die, but it's not the sacrifice you're talking about, Chris. It does have to go to Chris. I think the arguments were stronger, and if you can get something out of that rambly, nonsensical thing, then fine.
I'll say that Sarah Connor doesn't die until off camera in Terminator 3. Yeah.
And Kubo's mum dies twice in Kubo and the Two Strings.
Spoiler alert, man.
Kid just can't catch a break, can he?
Wait, so is she called String or something, and she dies each time? I don't know.
Oh, I should have actually talked about what. No, I couldn't have spoiled what the two strings are.
You should have, because it could have won at you.
So
Amy,
she dies
you ready?
twice.
Or am I gonna?
Fucking hell.
I can
Everyone
go.
just
do you
needs
wanna
to
go?
go away and watch Kubo and the Two Strings because it's fantastic.
Seriously, it's brilliant.
I do really want to watch Kubo and the Two Strings by far because, as I said, I love Leica Studios. I love Carline so much. But yeah, I do feel like Chris did really say more with how Sarah Connor sacrifices herself more than just with death, because that is so easy trope to go into. Just like, oh, your mom died, she sacrificed herself, you have to do things. Well, there's just more that a person can do than just die, if I'm completely honest with that. And yeah, as again, I would love to see Kubo. I am really, really wanting to. But I think, in all honesty, I think it does go to Terminator 2. And also, don't compare that Terminator 2 could be made by Michael Bay ever again, please.
It'd be an interesting experiment, but it's not an
I
experiment.
would love it. I would love it. It was better. Listen,
Please, no.
I'm going to say Michael Bay would have made a better film than Terminator Genesis. You would at least like scenes from a Michael Bay film.
God.
As much as you hate it, there is a scene at least someone will like.
God, put a gun to my head with that decision, Jesus.
But
If
Take the
there's
point,
anything I can say about my closing remarks to me now being out of this Battle of the Brackets, I want to say go see Kubo and the Two Strings, because I genuinely think if you'd seen that film, then it would have been a clean sweep.
And go see Brooklyn
Fingers
Rise.
crossed.
no, Tate, do you
Go
think,
see-
if you think you'd have picked La La Land, do you reckon you could have lasted longer? That's the real question.
There's a lot to attack with La La Land. I can attack La La Land by myself.
'Cause it's crap. Let's move
No,
on.
no.
George, out of curiosity, I know it doesn't mean anything at this stage. Did you make a decision?
I was leaning towards Chris, but it comes down to the trailer thing still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it did spoil it, and I know that, but because it didn't spoil it for me, and a lot of other people have seen it since, I don't know where I stand on it. I think Chris is the stronger argument, but I don't know the trailer, because that would have been strong enough to take down Terminator. But I think I would have given it to Chris, but I don't really know why or how.
I only mentioned the trailer thing because he used it as part of his argument, saying it's a twist that he's working on the other side now, and that's why I went with the trailer thing. I
have thought about it for the Jurassic Park argument, but I didn't want to do the trailer thing. I don't know. It's a weird one, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I think I would have leaned to it.
Okay, so for the final battle of the second round, we have Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back versus The Dark Knight.
Oh, fucking hell.
Chris, with your
No.
how many arguments have you had in a row now, Chris?
I've lost count.
5.
Really?
He's done 5 in a row. This will be his 5th in a row.
He's done.
And he's in the next
This will be
one
his 5th in a row.
regardless, so it would be 6. I felt
He's in the next
2, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah.
Okay, I've got it. I fucking got it. Let's do it.
Okay, Chris, you ready to go?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, as I mentioned in my first argument, the strength of Empire Strikes Back, you take away all the spectacle and the iconography and just the spectacular cinematic scenes in it. It's the characters, and it develops the characters that we saw, which got a very sort of stock foundation in the first one and really ramps up their development in the other one by splitting the characters apart. If I'm going to attack Dark Knight quickly now, it's a film that should be about Batman, and it really isn't. And it kind of falls into the same trap that Tim Burton's original 1989 Batman movie did, in that the focus is on the Joker. It's always on the Joker. People come away from that movie just talking about the Joker and really nothing else in that movie. People don't talk about the character of Batman. They don't really talk about the character of Harvey Dent either. And Harvey Dent, they kind of venom him in like the last 20 minutes of the movie. So you're taking one of the most iconic Batman villains of all time and just throwing him away at the end. And let's talk about that Christian Bale voice as well. I mean, what the hell was he thinking? What kind of direction was Christopher Nolan going for with that? It's an awful representation of Batman in that movie. Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. We're talking bad guys. You've got Darth Vader. Damn it!
Go.
Christ.
You ready?
And go.
When you watch Star Wars, the one thing you love is the characters. It's the main thing you go see Star Wars is the characters. You love the three, Luke, Leia, and Han. And it kills you that they're together in one scene in the sequel when they've been together for so long in that first film. they take them apart. But Luke's the hero, and they shove him on a little sort of a swamp planet with a little green monkey. And we wanted to see more of him with Leia and Han, because the most banterous scene, the funnest scene of that entire film is them three together in that hospital room. And they take that away from you completely to go do some side stories, which is understandable. But then the tone throws you. It should be consistent. A film series needs a consistent tone. To go from this bright, sort of fun, happy one to this dark and dismal one, it's such a vivid jump. I personally don't like it. I want to see more of the original film, and I think a lot of people do as well. Whereas Dark Knight stays consistent to the tone. You see in Batman Begins. Don't criticize the Batman voice, because it's the exact same in the predecessor. And it works. And people are talking about the Joker because it was the best thing about the film. There's nothing wrong. Exactly, the Star Wars is about Luke, but everyone talks about Han. The same reason that Batman's about Batman, but we talk about the Joker.
Star Wars tonally is a much more natural progression from the first movie to the second one. Dark Knight kind of abandons even its aesthetic from the first movie. The first movie is definitely a comic book movie, a comic book origin. This one just feels more like a crime thriller and feels devoid of any kind of connection to the previous one. And also, you talked about the characters being split up in Empire Strikes Back. That makes sense for the story, and narratively and thematically, it culminates into the ending, which is just completely just strong storytelling, just great character development. You say you don't talk about Luke. Training with Yoda is one of the most iconic scenes in Star Wars history.
And go.
You want to say it changes from film to film. Your film jumps forward 3 years, and suddenly Luke's got the Force. They're in this other planet. I want to know more about Hoth. Why are they at Hoth? What's happened? Why are they there? Whereas Batman, it's 6 months after Dark Knight, 6 months later, you see what's happened. People are scared of Batman. It's very crystal clear what happened previously. Whereas yours, it's too big a jump, and people want to explore that 3-year period to see why the Emperor is trying to strike back, because we genuinely don't know why the Empire's striking back. But in this film, we learn more about Batman and why he has to sort of break his one rule, because the Joker's only goal is to take the one rule from Batman. Whereas the Empire Strikes Back, it's just...
Jesus Christ.
George, you already quoted it in the comment section on our video, but this is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. It's like the absolute titans of sequel film history, right?
What are my two favourite trilogies of all time, Star Wars and Batman?
I'm going to go first here, because I was surprised. I really like Chris's arguments. I really think he attacked The Dark Knight like exactly where I thought it was going to be, and I feel like I actually think George did a better job when saying the distance between the two sequels and what that reflected on where they were at the start of the story. Damn. I
feel like we could have gone for another round on that, like with those two. That would have been a really good one. But yeah.
Dark Knight gets that one. I like the comparisons between the two time period, like the difference between the first and second film better than Chris's arguments. You want on the rebuttal?
Okay. Who's next?
Should I go next?
Sure. Yep.
Okay. This is really tough for me because I love both movies, but I think like two things really stuck out to me. Firstly, with George's argument saying that remember the Joker because like he was better in it, and I'm thinking, well, it's called The Dark Knight, so surely it should be about the Dark Knight. I know we did have Batman Begins, but if you want to kind of make this a sequel yet also a standalone, which I think Chris Nolan did and did quite well, then surely you should have a little bit more about like Batman and more focus on him, whilst trying to keep more of the Joker as a mystery, an enigma. Sold it really well. But then also you said about the time frame between the films and why does the Empire Strike Back, which I thought strike back. Why does
you get it in an opening crawl?
And I thought Death Star, of course. And you can still see why they're on Hoth. Like not just the opening crawl, which yes, you do have to read. Even though it's a movie, you do have to read.
Oh, God forbid we have to read.
It doesn't say why they're on Hoth.
But I can't
read. It's the last rebel outpost. It says that in the opening crawl, George.
And they do explain it. Even if you do fall asleep after the opening crawl, they still explain why they're on there. Like you see on like the starship that Vader is on, just seeing where, because they're searching very hard for the rebels after what's happened with the Death Star. And I think, although you both argued so well, I think that was kind of your downfall there, George. I'm really sorry, but Again, mostly because, as well as Chris saying, like it develops naturally with the characters and just goes on with the little side quests. I am gonna have to give it to Empire.
Thank you.
So 1-1, Tom tiebreaker.
Tom, decider.
You know,
What's his reaction to actually being knocked out of the battle bracket as well?
It's much the same as you know. I think back to when I argued against Blade Runner, and George, your love of Star Wars is known throughout this channel, and it must have been really difficult to pick apart Empire Strikes Back. And I just think the rebuttals and the arguments for The Dark Knight and the attacks on Empire were much stronger. So it's going to have to be George.
Wow. Okay.
I feel so guilty now.
Nolan, your favorite director. What the hell, man?
This is my favorite film. I won't lie. I had to do a lot of thinking to criticize Empire Strikes Back. Like, I'm not joking.
We knew you didn't mean a single thing
Of course I didn't.
about it.
It's perfect. I'm just a bit...
That's all Chris should have said. Chris should have just turned up and said, it's perfect. And then it was like, oh, crap, that's my argument.
It's Empire, man. Full stop.
So after being angry at Chris for stealing Empire Strikes Back, George has taken it down with his very own pick. How does that feel justice-wise, George?
It's not justice, though, is it? Because we're devoid of a Star Wars final.
It's the dawn of justice.
Oh.
So I
We don't
believe the
speak
final
that
four
movie.
are Toy Story, Shining, Terminator 2, and The Dark Knight.
No, I haven't got an image. Sorry, I was trying to get over in shock. Do you want me to get an image? I can export it now, guys.
We'll do an image. We'll do an image.
Gotcha.
Thoughts on round 2? Wow.
Disappointing from my part. I feel like a lot of my arguments were a bit too rambly. I know that I lost Tom as soon as I said that it was way too cheesy, but I feel like if you're a first-time viewer, that it would be really cheesy.
In the words of Immortan,
People love it. That's genuinely like people love it. But I feel like I just need to get more aggressive in my arguments and actually pick apart the films and defend mine well enough to get through. So I'll come back strong for the next battle, even though it's one that I'm going to know.
You and me both take.
The next battle is the Star Wars one, right?
Yeah, so if you look at the screen now, we have our semi-finalists, and we have Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope versus The Shining, and we have Terminator 2 versus The Dark Knight.
Rest is Chris's picks.
So we've got George v. Chris and Chris v. George. Yeah, I didn't plan this far. I don't know what to say, but yeah, this is going to be fun. I swear that the past like 3 brackets have been me v you, like in some kind of as the final 2, and all those the same finals. We're the final 2 again. Yeah, I'm ready ish.
You got Star Wars.
Okay.
Against The Shining. Wow.
So, for the first one, we got Star Wars versus The Shining. Are you guys ready?
No. But George is going first, so I'll do my best.
Star Wars is going first in 3, 2, 1, go.
This bracket is the greatest film. It's essentially the greatest film of these 16 we've picked. Essentially, let's be honest. And when you think about these great films, Shining's a wonderful film, Star Wars is a wonderful film, all these films are wonderful. But what grabs you with Star Wars is you can sit down and it takes you out of the world. Whatever you're thinking about, you can be transported into this galaxy far, far away from the opening scene. You essentially go there and you feel like you're a part of the story. Every time a character's introduced, it feels like you're there with them. And you just want to follow the journeys of these people. You know, I want to see Luke save Leia. I want to see him blow up the Death Star. We've seen his family be killed. Let's follow the journey of this fanboy that just wants to do more of his life. It's such a story that everyone wants to look up in the sky and do well with themselves. And this takes that, and you're there with him. And with him, you've got this phenomenal CGI. You've got the John Williams theme, and it just takes you on a roller coaster of ride that finishes a beautiful, nice way of him burning the Death Star, the relief that everyone has. The rebel base was saved. There's something about it that's just perfect.
Your story is literally just you know, hero rises up, saves the day. It's a story we have seen a million times. It's pretty much in every single movie. It was just the world that won people over with Star Wars. With The Shining, you are looking at a director at his absolute peak, at his prime. His direction just oozes in every single frame of this film. And you take something just as simple as the concept of a hotel. Like, how do you make a hotel scary? And Kubrick does it from his choice of shots. You've got the tricycle tracking shot, one of the most iconic scenes ever. And it's just that really uneasy sense, even from the opening shot of the movie all the way through, which culminates to the ending in the maze sequence, which is absolutely stunning. You have absolute powerhouse performances, one of the best performances of his entire career with Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. And say what you want about Shelley Duvall, she serves the role of the character well. She does get to that believable state of just hysteria and just manic, just I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, just manicness. There we go. Also, the film with the little kid as well. Usually kids are annoying, but he works for the film and he actually filmed the entire film without realizing it was a horror film. Jeez.
Go.
You want to talk about iconic scenes? Yes, you said the tricycle is the most iconic scenes. I'm sorry, but there's 3 more iconic scenes in Episode 4: A New Hope. The Star Destroyer coming over the top, the Death Star blowing up, binary sunset. 3 scenes that everyone thinks a lot more than The Shining. It's not about iconic scenes. And you're right, Star Wars, you know, it is okay. It's a system that's been done before, the hero journey. But this is the one everyone goes back to because it's the best hero's journey. And I'm sorry, but not everyone wants to see a lunatic hitting his wife with a baseball bat. That's a bit creepy. I want to see this fanboy doing well for himself because it inspires a lot of people.
And stop. Go.
The thing is with Star Wars, you see the movie once and you can keep coming back to it for the world. But in terms of the story, it's pretty much just one and done. We've seen it loads of times. The Shining is a film you can watch multiple times, again and again. You can pick apart the direction. You can pick apart the acting. You can look at the different themes. You can look at the different interpretations you could have from it. Every person that watches this film can come away from this film with a different interpretation. And I think that's what's going for The Shining more, is that it has that rewatchability factor, whereas Star Wars, it's just, you know, it's the classic story we've seen done to death a million times.
And stop.
Oh God, I don't know what else to say.
Jesus Christ.
That's quite hard.
That was hard.
I'm gonna go first here. By making it possible for making Star Wars seem like a pretty standard film. When I watch Star Wars, if I've seen it once, I see it for the plot. If I see it for a second time, I'm seeing it for the world. And that is so true. It's unbelievably true. And when you look at The Shining, and you can go back and watch it for the different themes, you can watch it for the different directional takes of the film. Like, got to give it to The Shining. I can't believe you made Star Wars seem ordinary.
I'll take it. Thank you. Okay. Anyone? I'm kind of lost for words at the minute. Anyone else?
Shall I go in?
Yeah, go for it.
I just keep thinking to George's arguments by saying that like Star Wars is the best, and keep like harking about just how like people keep going back to it and just love it. Film is very subjective and controversial. I know it is. I do know people that do hate Star Wars, and I do converse with them. Just ask them why.
Those people are dead to me. I'm very selective about the people I meet. I wouldn't want to. I'm joking. I'm sure they're lovely people.
That is the thing. Like, it is very subjective with film, and yeah, you could try and get people to watch Star Wars a million times, but when I watch it, I do.
I'm not trying to make them.
So I do watch it for everything, and that's the same with The Shining. And again, it is difficult to make a hotel scary. I know King tries to make Balloon scary, and that doesn't really work in my opinion. But,
I got a lot of flack for that in my recent reaction to it. By the way, there's a lot of It fans out there. Continue. Sorry.
I'm not a fan, by the way, but I do
Tim
really
Curry
like his take on the Shining, and I do think Chris did argue it well as like, again, trying to make Star Wars into just an ordinary film, which I think for anybody it's hard to do, even the haters of Star Wars, which are like very tiny. But yeah, I think just for the arguments, I have to give it to Chris.
So Chris has already won.
Tom,
which way?
Help me out here. I don't know what's happening.
Well, I mean, I would have given it to Chris. You know, That's but
Okay.
That is a
so it
clean
would have been a
sweep to
clean
the
slate.
Shining.
Yeah. Clean sweep.
Okay, I don't think anyone saw that coming. Phenomenal argument from Chris to send The Shining through to the final of our anniversary bracket. Wow, I am also, I'm pretty shocked as well. It's not to say that George's argument wasn't a bad argument, but I'm still shocked that Chris made Star Wars feel like a completely ordinary film that you can print out and be generic.
And obviously, George,
okay.
you know, I didn't mean a word of it, and I don't quite know how that happened myself. I'm kind of
with a lot of this bracket, we don't mean a word of what we're saying, especially when Tom says he hates Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a brilliant film. I don't know what he's talking about.
I mean every word.
Definitely mean that.
I mean every word on 90% of them.
Okay, so now we are through to the second semi-final with Terminator 2 versus The Dark Knight. Please make sure that you are still commenting because we do want to hear who you think is going to win each round as they go along, because I definitely didn't see that coming going into that round. Okay, so on the clock is Terminator 2. Is Terminator 2 ready to go?
Knight, right? I'm up against Dark Knight.
Up against The Dark Knight.
I need to try and find the ability to words right now because as I'm saying, I'm up first, but I'm still in disbelief to that last round, in all honesty, a little bit. But yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it.
Okay. Are you ready?
No, but that's the best state to do with these things. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so I wanted to go back to that point you made last time about the whole time jump thing, and I'm not bitter about Empire. The point's still prevalent. This movie, it is almost totally completely separate from the other one.
Please, have we lost Chris? Sorry.
Wait, am I back? Whoa.
Okay,
oh, God.
Chris, we're going to give you a restart, okay? You are now good. We're going to give you a restart. Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, okay.
And go.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to that point you made about last time about the time difference. So with Terminator 1 and you look at Terminator 2, they are almost totally completely different movies. But I don't think the time jump is necessarily a bad thing with movies, especially with Terminator, because the way it throws you in, you are kind of having these questions. You wonder why Sarah Connor has got to this point where she is now. She starts off in a mental ward. She's a complete badass from the opening scene that we see her. She's completely different to the character we see before. Arnie's a good guy, so they flipped everything on its head, and that's what makes this movie really interesting. With Dark Knight, when it kind of throws you in, if you look at the end of the Batman Begins, it really doesn't follow on from anything that came before. We get like a really tacked on opening 2 minutes with a Scarecrow, but it doesn't really fulfill the promises that Batman Begins left it with. So it feels with this weird state of beginning. Also, if we're looking at action heroines, Linda Hamilton, fantastic as Sarah Connor. I mean, if you look at, oh God, what's her name? Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel Dawes. Like, I'm just waiting for that moment that she gets blown up to just get her out of the movie because she is abysmal. She weighs down this movie every single frame she's in, and they keep trying to make her a thing.
And go.
You want to talk about my movie that, you know, it changes from the end of that first film. It doesn't follow on. The Scarecrow was a loose end that was tied up. That film finishes with the Joker cards. How did it not follow up? It has the Joker in it. It does follow up. And mine follows it more than yours. Yours, Terminator didn't ever need a sequel. It was finished to save the day. Oh, let's just have another Terminator film because it worked. And we'll have another Terminator. We'll do the same thing over again, the same trope. And okay, this time we want Arnie back, but how do we do it? We'll make him a good guy because we really need Arnie back and we can't do it without him. Whereas mine, they introduced the villain that's going to turn the hero on itself. You want to talk about films turning on each other? This changed the entire comic genre by killing the damsel in distress. The Joker tricked them. It's such a simple plot device that no film's done. He just told them where each person was in the wrong location, and they followed it. You don't see that in films. Whereas yours, yes, there's a sacrifice. There's always a sacrifice, so the good guys can win. Mine, the bad guys win. Bad guys take the blame for killing someone, and in order to protect the city, to put the inmates in prison, because the good guys had turned bad. In the film, compared to, oh yeah, this robot, he was just designed good, and we told them that he was going to be a good guy.
And stop.
I believe that Terminator was right for a sequel. I mean, the ending did have that looming threat that was still to come. And I mean, you could look at Terminator 2 as well and still see that as a factor in this movie, which makes it entertaining. Let's talk about the action direction for a second. Terminator 2, one of the best action movies ever made. Just the framing, the styling, just everything about it, perfect. The action, I mean, yours is inherently a comic book movie with Batman. The action is directed horribly. The choreography is off. The framing's terrible. Everything to do with that you want to see Batman be Batman is just terrible. So it's not, you're not focused on the Batman stuff. You're focused on the Joker stuff. And that's just...
And stop. And go.
It's not a superhero comic film. This was seen as a film. The first comic film to be seriously taken as a film itself. That's why it's become successful. That's why it has a lasting legacy that people still speak about today. Talking about action, that's because he's trying to tell a story. There is action. There's a car chase. There's a bat chase. There's practical effects of the bus of the truck. Whereas yours just relies on some CGI tricks to pull a quick one that's dated horrifically. My film hasn't dated because it's entirely practical effects. There's essentially no CGI except Harvey Dent's face, which still looks traumatic today. It's realistic. It's brought in the world.
T-1000 is the only CGI. Sorry.
Oh my god.
Okay. Right, I'm ready to decide.
Well, I went first on the last one, so I'm not going
you can
first on
discount that last point I did because it was after the time.
Okay, so I think Chris, it was a good fight, and the arguments you raised and the points you got across were very good. But I think George just had that edge in terms of attacking your film. So it's going to have to go to George, and I think that because of his attacks, and he really didn't hold back, I think, with that.
Okay, that's fine.
Me.
Naomi? Do we still have a Naomi?
I'm still deciding because you argue both so well, and I love both of these movies. Oh gosh, Tate, have you decided?
Okay. What this argument here boils down to is it's tough. Both of you argued for very similar things and attacked with kind of the same gusto on each element. It makes it really difficult to pick those kind of two arguments apart because they were so similar in the way that they were presented. However, I do genuinely think George put in a bit more heart and a bit more information into his arguments. I feel like they brought back in Arnie just because they needed the big name. That's purely because of George's argument. I never really thought of it that way before, but now I can just kind of imagine the whole, we need to get Arnie back because, yeah, sure, he was the face of the not franchise at that time, but really the story was about John Connor, and bringing back Arnie as the Terminator is just a big name plug-in, and they feed it into the plot quite well. Whilst with George's argument, he says they're bringing in the Joker. They do hint at him from the previous film, and they bring his character through. They turn the hero changing sides on its head, as it isn't expected when you first see the film and you know nothing about it before you see it. How I experienced it, I did not expect Harvey Dent to become like Two-Face, because I had no knowledge prior going into the film.
Okay.
Genuinely.
Okay.
I wasn't that big of a film fanatic back then. I just kind of watched it casually.
Can I
That's
drop
like
you?
Batman knowledge.
Yeah.
Can I drop
Okay.
you some facts? In Batman Begins, that lawyer that gets killed, that's with Rachel, that was written as Harvey Dent, and then it's like, nope, I want to make it a standalone film. That's too teasy, so he put him as a normal character and killed him.
Oh, if that.
Fair enough,
I was going to say, Jesus. If that had been Harvey Dent and they'd killed him off in that movie,
No, they wouldn't have killed him. He
He
just thought if he made it Harvey, it's too sequel bait.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the argument is going to George.
Although the Joker card at the end is still kind of sequel baiting, so I don't see how it would
Yeah,
have mattered if they
you know
put
what I
Harvey
mean.
Dent in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that was like
Yeah.
late though.
If it didn't get a sequel,
Okay,
it'd be like Billy
so
D. Williams.
that is 2-0 to George. So whilst George is working out the bracket and crossing off all of the pictures, Naomi, where would your pick of
Lane.
Okay, I think we
Lane.
managed to decide, and it was going to be with George, because even though you did strongly argue against Dark Knight, because Rachel is probably one of the few female characters that I probably hate, because she's more of a role model than an actual person. She's an idolized female instead of being like an actual person like Vicky Bell was in the 1989 version, even though she did scream a lot. But yeah, George, you just really went in for the attack on that one by saying the whole twist thing with Harvey Dent. Even though I do feel like Batman the Animated Series did it better with like establishing who Harvey Dent was. I think that's because they had more time to do so. But this film really did a good job with that as well. George, you just really argued very well, just really honed in on Terminator 2. Because again, we could have had it with Terminator with just Robert Patrick and John and Sarah Connor just fending for themselves. But yeah, drop in Arnold Schwarzenegger and you get the money, I guess. So yeah, it's George.
Okay. And any other thoughts on the bracket so far?
Yes, I'm just gonna, before we reveal the final bracket, someone actually put up, in fact it was Sheila, I want to watch Tate rip it apart for an hour. So if you would like to see me rip apart Star Wars for an hour, I will try and bear that mantle if
do it on the 40th anniversary.
For that idea.
Do it on the 40th anniversary, and it'll be the most disliked video in history.
It will be the most disliked video of all.
Do it as one of your thoughts on film and literally time it to get it to 60 minutes exactly.
But it's only on Star Wars. It can't be on any other film than Episode 4.
Exactly.
Other than Episode 4. Oh, but I want to delve into.
No, you said 1 hour on Episode 4. We get 1 hour on Episode 4.
Okay, I'll do 1 hour on Episode 4.
Yeah, going after the prequels is just too easy.
I've had this screenshot ready for ages, guys. I forgot to tell you.
Okay.
We've got a final.
We have a final.
We have. Oh wow! Look at Jack.
Look
at the Joker.
They mirror images of each other.
I can picture the Joker with the crowbar, literally about to beat the shit into him.
Well, I've got an axe, mate. So
I
I
was
know
going to say, crowbar versus the axe. RPG versus Frozen Man. Brains versus something else. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I can really talk about.
No matter which way you look at it, this is coming from the bottom half of the bracket from both sides. We almost had a very symmetrical bracket with Tom letting us down on that front. But yeah, what are the rules for the final?
We had 30 seconds onto each argument, so the minute argument will go to a minute 30, and the 30-second rebuttal will be a minute. So we get a lot more time to talk about these things, which may be a blessing or a curse, depending on how many times we've already talked about our respective movies.
Fantastic. So,
oh great! I think I'm up first.
For the final of the 2-year anniversary Cinema Savvy Battle of the Brackets.
Can I say a quote?
Reviewed by Cinema Savvy. Go on.
Can I say a quote so Chris can begin?
Go for it.
I'm not going to do the voice, but here we go.
Knew it. Okay.
Okay, Chris.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Go.
So as we just talked about, two very similar films in that these are films made by the directors at the height of their career, at the height of their just directorial style, and two powerhouse performances of psychotic characters with Heath Ledger as Joker and Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance. My biggest fault with The Dark Knight, if I'm going to compare these two movies, is that the dialogue is very on the nose, Nolan's films in general, in that it feels like he's just throwing like a philosophy book at you. Like he's just reading extracts from it. There's no moments where the characters feel like real people. Everything feels completely scripted, over-scripted, and there's some moments where he could be a lot more subtle with it. And I think that's what you get with The Shining, in that it's a film you can watch many times, have a different interpretation from it. It's a very uneasy feel throughout the entire film, and it just keeps you guessing all the time. And the dialogue feels natural. It almost feels... There are some parts that feel otherworldly, which plays into the haunted nature of it. But like the start, it's like natural conversations you'd have at a job interview with your family, with your kids, just anything. And it feels a lot more, you're in that setting, although it's a larger than life setting with all these ghostly things appearing, it feels grounded to that. Whereas The Dark Knight, there's these lengthy monologues, which just, they're complete out of place for characters that we should be behind from the off. Just Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest directors ever, and in terms of his direction with this film, it's incredible. From his planning of the hotel itself, from his choice of shots, from the choice of ghostly imagery, and the way that he would keep making actors get those takes hundreds and hundreds of times to get the take he wanted. He was an absolute perfectionist.
And go.
I don't want to talk. Sorry, I do want to talk. Sorry. My script is not philosophy tricked at you. That's one or two lines. Seeing the monologues aren't needed. The Alfred monologue about the thief in Burma with the diamonds, that was needed. That explains what's going to happen. And yes, there's one or two lines. You either die here or live long enough to see us how become the villain. That's become one of the most iconic lines of the film. That's perfectly written. It foreshadows everything beautifully. And you want to talk about criticism of the script? You've got a guy that says like red rum for like the last third of the film. That's just a bit. Here we go. And then another thing that The Shining, you're trying to watch it and one of the most distracting things is the music. It feels like someone's fallen asleep and he's just like fell on top of the synthesizer for the entirety of that final act. It's just, you're trying to listen and it's just like this ridiculous over the top noises. Whereas mine, you've got Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard together composing a beautiful score that matches the on-screen events beautifully. It works so well. When there's tension building, that soundtrack's taking you to the tension building scenes. And the other issue you mentioned previously that you hated the woman character, I forgot her name, and that you wanted her to die, and she did die. Yes, everyone hates Shelley Duvall's character. What does she do? She lives. Her husband tries to kill her, and she hides in the kitchen after she knocks him out. She doesn't run out of there. Whereas Rachel was actually clever. She dies at the Joker's hand. It's not an awfully written moment. It's beautifully done. It's a perfect moment that's changed the comic book hero genre of killing people, taking away the damsel's interest. Yours was literally, why on earth she knocked him out and literally not left, didn't call the police. She's on her own. She's off in this the hotel hiding from him, which is, it takes you out of the film completely.
Stop.
The fact is, Shelley Duvall's character doesn't have anywhere to go, and that's why The Shining's so great. It's that fear of isolation. She does get the better of Jack Torrance. She does lock him in the storeroom, and then she tries to escape, but he's already got the better of her. He's taken the engine apart for the snowcat. She is trapped in that hotel, and I think her performance is very believable. Some may see her as really shrill. I think that's a believable reaction you'd have if something like that happened. And The Dark Knight, I'm talking about the interplay with the Joker and Batman, especially in the interrogation scene. They kind of spell everything out to you monologue by monologue, and that's really not needed. It could be something much more subtle, which allows the audience to form their own opinion rather than being told everything beginning to end. And let's talk about the music, for example. I'm deeply offended that you said it sounds like someone's just fell asleep on a synthesizer. And let's look at Hans Zimmer with like the Joker theme. What is the Joker's theme? It's a screechy note on a cello, on a violin, and that's it. It pales. All of the music in The Dark Knight pales in comparison to Danny Elfman's previous score that he did for the Batman films. There's no memorable theme to anything in that movie. The Shining works. It's almost like another character to the film itself.
Go. You said it there. What is the Joker's theme? What is the Joker? He's an enigmatic character. That's his theme. That's not Batman's theme. That's not Harvey Dent's theme. That's the Joker's to the character. It's a character theme. And only plays when the Joker's needed. That's what themes are. Yours is just the same crap at the end of it. And I'm not going to talk about Danny Elfman's embarrassment with the soundtrack. My film is without a doubt between the best film we've ever reviewed on the channel. The Dark Knight stands the test of time. People are going to talk about this the next 2 decades. Saying Heath Ledger's performance of the Joker, that prison cell scene is one of the most iconic scenes in the day. The conversation takes place. It's not spelling things out. You want to listen to the conversation of Joker and Batman. Joker's telling you why he wants to kill Batman. It's so refreshing to see a villain do that than rather tell some awful story. He's saying, no, this is what I'm about. This is what I'm going to do. And I'll try and catch me while I do it all. It's an amazing villain story. And then you've got the Joker breaking out of prison. The boats at the end of are the good guys, the morally right people going to kill the bad guys, as in prison towel, or the prison guys going to kill the good guys. It's setting so much tension.
And stop.
Can I just let it be said that Danny Elfman slur right there may have made me more angry than the evil comment that we had in another Battle of the Rockets.
Right? Because what's the most...
That is the Batman theme. That is the Batman theme.
It's basically a Prince soundtrack with one Danny Elfman song over the top.
That is not true. There's an orchestral score to that film. There's an orchestral score to that film.
It's
the
a
fucking
Prince
Danny
album.
Elfman theme.
It's a Prince album with Danny Elfman.
You've got the Prince album and you've got the Danny Elfman score.
Fucking guys, the battle is done.
No, it's not. It's just started, Tate.
The battle is done.
Okay. I'm calm.
So,
I've decided. Shall I go first, or?
yeah, you can go first.
Okay. I feel like you both argued again very well, and I applaud you both for it. But Chris did make a strong point by saying you don't really remember the themes from The Dark Knight, and I was thinking, like, what do I remember? Just the main theme, and that's it.
There's no main theme.
There are so many.
Yeah.
You remember it?
Sorry. So
there's so many bits of Shining that you do remember, though it's not like loud and bombastic. That's not the tone that Shining has. It's meant to be very much like full of surprises and you don't really know what to expect. And also with Shelley Duvall, yes, I hate Shelley Duvall in this role because I just don't like her whimpering. But called the police, and I think that's like they say like the phone lines die.
How convenient.
It's the storm.
So there's the reason why she does lock him in the storage place, and she is basically trapped in that hotel. Like she can't contact anybody, and she only has her son to protect. The Dark Knight is one of my favorites, and I do love Batman very, very much. But it is gonna have to go to The Shining for me.
Thank you. Tate or Tom?
I haven't decided yet.
Tate, help us out here.
George had a meteor argument, and when I say that, I mean he actually had a lot more to argue with, and he used it a lot more effectively. I can hum along to like a couple of the scores from The Dark Knight. Don't know whether that's biased or not because I actually listen to the Dark Knight soundtrack every now and then.
Sorry,
but like there was one thing which, when you look back over both of the arguments, there's one thing which keeps on playing in my head, and I think it was one of the first things that was said, and that was to do with the lines of the film coming straight out of a philosophy book. And yes, they have become iconic and linked to the film. But when you compare the two dialogues between the film and you think about it that way, the dialogue is a lot more intelligently seen in The Shining. And yes, sure, you've got the whole red rum scene and him saying red rum over and over and over again. However, you can remove one quote from one, remove one quote from the other, and the dialogue is still better in The Shining. That being said, George had a lot of a meteor argument, and I'm more inclined to go with George here purely because he had a lot more to say when attacking you, Chris.
Okay.
And he did it a lot more effectively. Teetering, that one was absolutely teetering.
You literally like build up like a broken heart and then you like change. It's like, no, but it was you all along.
It was me, Austin. It was me all along.
Oh, that's literally
so it goes to Tom.
Okay. So this is a tough one.
They're so different films as well, aren't they?
They are. They really are. Fuck yeah! I'm still trying to wrap my head around what was said and you know, divulging what opinion I have about the arguments that were said. And I would agree with Tate that George did have a meteor go at it. But I think the points that Chris raised were completely valid, and you know they did make you question. One thing I will say is I don't understand the philosophy angle you were going with on your argument. I don't think you really explained that enough.
It should have been morality. I think morality is the word I was looking for, but I said philosophy. Yeah.
Oh shit! I think it's gonna have to be George.
Yes.
Boom!
Wow! Jesus Christ!
Oh my gosh.
It was nobly won.
The winner of
the Empire Strikes Back
anniversary
for nothing.
Battle of the Brackets was Dark Knight.
Thank God.
Let's focus on that picture if we can. There we go.
It's a beautiful image of the Joker conquering Crazy Man beneath him. Look at the bottom row. It's like it's an eventual build off between the Joker and Jack, and we got there.
Finally got there. Jack Nicholson
Oh.
been in The Shining and obviously the Batman franchise in the past as well. So technically, the two
Yeah.
Jokers going up against each other in some way.
And the fact that one thing I'll say about Sam in general is that for an argument for the Dark Knight, and rely on Heath Ledger like a lot of people would have done. No, I'm kind of in shock at that. Again, it was Tate. Like Tate was the way Tate's response is like, it's like I'm gonna 80% talk about Chris. But there you go, George.
You
I know
know, if
this-
he starts talking about you first, you've lost.
Game over,
The thing
man.
is, though, I
Game
started
over.
talking about I started talking about George first. I said he had a meteor argument.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
but
true.
then you went to Tate. Then you went to Chris. It's like, nah, it's over. And he's like, yeah, George. I'm kind of still in a bit of shock at that. Again, there's two
Yeah.
completely different films.
Oh my
There
gosh.
was loads of unpredictable things that happened in this
Yeah.
bracket again that I didn't see coming.
I think this
Yeah.
is one of the hardest brackets I've done.
Hmm.
Because when
Yes.
you have like, I don't know, best sports moment, okay, well, why is this a sport moment? And why have you got the best soundtrack? Why does it work well as music? Whereas this is, we know what the best film is, but it's always been, okay, best Oscar film, so you're going to talk about Oscars. It's the best, what other ones have we done?
If I'm actually going to talk about the best film on that list, if we're talking completely objectively here, probably is The Shining. If not, Empire Strikes Back.
I would say it's
Like-
out of Empire Strikes Back, Dark Knight, and Toy Story.
That's a good question. It depends what you look into. I mean,
Yeah.
film's subjective. It depends how you're looking in terms of film. Are you looking at one that's most entertaining to
Yeah.
watch, or one that's crafted with the greatest direction? It's tough. I
Well-
mean, most of the times when these brackets finish, you're either on an absolute high or you just really fun. Like, this has really took a lot out of me tonight. Like, I feel like I've been battling like all the time with this. Like, I'm tired now. So but it's not the two that I expected to see in the final. So I mean,
No.
I can't believe I managed to get The Shining to the final. That was completely just bewildering to me, as I'm sure it was to everyone else. But yeah, final thoughts, and then we'll round out, I guess.
Again, this has been the 2-year anniversary of Cinema Savvy. I will give you a speech. Technically 2 years ago today, due to a re-upload, I could say. But no, it's been a great 2 years. We have a lot of amazing things planned for the foreseeable future, which I cannot wait to start working on. It's been very fun to do this because I always go to the cinema and actually get to talk about films and tell people about it. Why do I hate this film? Well, here's why. That's the simple aspect. Now I can do that because I wouldn't spam it on Facebook. I'm not that type of person. And then kind of, I won't lie, the past year since we've done Battle of the Brackets, this has easily been the best thing about this channel. That's not me slagging off the channel. That's literally how fucking good the show is. And I love doing them, and I want to keep doing more. And can I please unveil the next 2 Battle of the Brackets we have planned?
Yes, go for it.
Obviously, as you guys know, I like Star Wars.
Don't we all?
I've already
We
lost
all
this
know
bracket.
how much you like Star Wars.
Thank you.
Too much.
I just don't understand how anyone could have recognized I don't. And it's the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. Has anyone told you that? No, they haven't.
I don't think they have, George. Have you told me that?
Only I've only mentioned it once or twice. And like I said, what's our favorite program? It's my favorite is Battle of the Brackets. So what are we doing for the 40th anniversary of Star Wars? We don't have a date yet, but it will be the end of May. We've already done 2 Star Wars Battle of the Brackets as a part of Star Wars Month. We're like, okay, so what's next? And what is next, as Goldberg would say, it's not you. It's the next thing we're going to be doing is a 40th anniversary best secondary Star Wars character. Now, this is where it gets fun, because immediately you use your Lukes, your Yodas, your Obi-Wans, your Darth Vaders. You take out everyone that R2-D2 is the C-3PO.
Lose Jar Jar.
Yes, we do, because he is a main character. And this is really going to be the most random bracket yet, because we've kind of done the other Star Wars ones. But I'm excited for it. But that's the kind of special. The big one's in June. There's another comic book film coming out, Surprise. It's a surprise as we talk about Star Wars. And this one looks truly abysmal. I mean, I'm talking like I keep forgetting this one's coming out, and it took me a trailer at Guardians to remind me. I was like, it's coming out soon, isn't it? Yeah, Wonder Woman's coming out. No one gets excited. And
So in honor of DC,
no,
we're going to be
not,
doing.
not just
Oh wait,
DC.
no, I can't say that.
In honor of Wonder Woman. and kind of DC, I guess. We're doing the worst comic book film ever.
And I mean, this is kind of like a partner Battle of the Brackets piece to the best comic book movie we did, which is sadly the greatest Battle of the Brackets episode that no one will ever see.
Which didn't have the Dark Knight winning.
No, maybe we'll get back to that again at some point. It'll be a little strange to redo that one, but...
Funnily enough, this is going to be the first Battle of the Brackets film where we want our film to be the worst. It is going to be the first one where we're actually arguing for how bad our film is, which is brilliant.
I'll be intrigued to see that, because I always feel like you can argue so much for your best, but I feel like you can have so much more to say if you really hate a film, because you can see so much of its flaws and you can really nitpick it to what it is, whilst if you love something, you can easily just glance over the flaws.
You could probably get more emotional hating on a film than you do loving on a film, because you can get people to empathize with you by staying calm and saying how much you like it, whilst with this one, you just want to make people detest the film. So you've got to be detestable.
So, we'll be bringing those out, as I said, Star Wars Celebration towards the end of this month, and then we will have the worst comic book movie at some point in June.
Shout out to Samuel J. in the comments. Star Trek. George, come at me. I would not lower myself to that level, my friend.
Star Trek is better than Star Wars.
Trekkies, oh dear.
Drunk.
Well, maybe Star Trek will come up if you guys want me to do a.
Hey, do you remember the Star Trek 50th
on Star Wars?
Do you remember the Star Trek 50th anniversary that no one spoke about, and that Star Wars 40th anniversary that everyone's spoken about? Again.
Well, by everyone, I think we mean you, George.
No, the Star Wars Celebration panel, George Lucas coming out. Everyone knows about Star Wars. Even shops selling 40th anniversary merchandise. It's everywhere.
Right, I'm going to cut this off before this gets into a Star Trek and Star Wars feud, which could go on for another 2 hours, I'm sure. George, you've already kind of done a speech. I'm just going to say something really quickly. I mean, this all started off with, it was both of us on the Schmoes Know forum when that was still a thing and we were still a part of that. And I just kind of put a message in there and say, hey, I'm interested in starting a film review channel. Anyone interested? And then George Aldridge replies back.
The key bit was, I'm from Warwickshire. I'm not giving away any further details than that. And I was like, hey, up. That's where I live. And literally, if you hadn't have put your address, we wouldn't be here now. Not your address, your location.
And then 2 years on, we've built this channel from the ground up, introduced Tate, introduced all the other people that we've had on Cinema Savvy. And it's just going to keep continuing growing with all the new shows that we've got coming out. Really exciting stuff for the channel. I think we've talked about it in phases. We're gradually moving into phase 3 now. So it's really exciting stuff. So that'll do it from us for our bracket tonight. Again, get commenting, get subscribing, hit that bell icon at the side of the subscribe button so you get a notification every time we bring out a new review, new reaction, a new Battle of the Brackets, or any of the wealth of shows that we've got coming out. And thanks to everyone for joining us on the panel today. Thanks for everyone to watching and getting commenting. And until the next video, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.